Yo, what's up, pups? How's everybody doing tonight? We got a special guest tonight. I got Stephen. Stephen, what's happening?
Yo, what up, bro? Good to see you.
I know, it's been a second, man. How you been?
Good. Everything's pretty good. Been enjoying the energies that we've had already in 2025. It's just getting started, but it's already been kind of chaotic in many aspects. So you have been surfing those waves.
You have been busy, man. You have been crazy busy, but it does seem like there's a lot happening, and I'm really glad we lined up right here for March, because March looks like it's just loading up to be absolutely crazy. So
yeah,
what is all the excitement about March about? Oh, actually, before we jump into it, just for a second, because I know we got a lot of new people here, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Stefan Burns, and I just basically started a YouTube channel a few years ago, just exploring the things that I like to explore, and that hits a lot of different topics and niches. And so it's kind of primarily focused into, for example, space weather and the energies that are coming off the sun, how the Earth receives them. My background is as a geophysicist, so I interpret this kind of from that geologic, geophysical lens. And like often I'll look specifically at the science of these things, how it interacts with our body, the geophysical systems of the earth, earthquakes, volcanoes, and more. But over the past few years, I've also really taken a lot of time and put a lot of effort into researching to the more metaphysical domains. And so that involves things like astrology, and that involves a lot of different spiritual domains, and just kind of our understanding of spirit and consciousness and the collective consciousness and things of this nature. And I've had a big interest in financial markets, and specifically more relevant to your channel, crypto, since 2016. So, financial markets before that, because my dad basically raised me with the stock market in mind, because he's been super into his whole life. But I got into crypto first in 2016, and so I've been tracking that in my detailed kind of research-focused way for a long time. And then as I started to learn things like astrology, and I started to learn about how, for example, solar activity influences societal processes here on Earth and people's behavior and stuff, it all kind of coalesced together. And so we're seeing now, especially the past 3 months, the correlation between some of these like celestial events, you could say, and crypto market movements in particular have been like near perfect. Crypto really seems to resonate based on the astrology, at least for the past 6 months or so.
Yeah. I'm really excited about see that correlation. And pups, everybody out there watching right now, smash the like button. Stefan Burns is an extraordinarily busy person. I'll also show you his website. It's actually down in the details as well. So he's coming on to chat with us for a little bit. He's becoming a big fan of PulseChain as well, and crypto in general. So that's very exciting news. But definitely smash that like button. Show your appreciation. We're going to dig into it. We're going to chat for a bit. I'm going to keep checking on the chat, and any questions you guys have, just go ahead and throw it at us. We got them for a little while, and we want to get all the knowledge we can, because this is definitely a field where there's very few people going into it in the deep the way he has. So he has a lot of knowledge and insights about what's going on and how it correlates to our lives here, and more importantly, to the market. So this should be very cool. And once again, man, thanks for joining us tonight. This is super cool.
Yeah.
Let's just dive into it, man. So what is going on? Why is March so special?
Well, March is interesting because there are not just like one or two of these different energetic factors that are external And with a certain philosophy or mindset, nothing is technically external. It's all, if there's external things happening, it's also reflecting internally. They're one and the same.
Right.
As within, so without. But if we just ignore kind of that for a moment, or just put that to the side, we have right now solar maximum occurring, which is a 12-year cycle approximately. Okay. And this is where the magnetic field of the sun flips, and at the middle of that flip, the dynamo that creates this magnetic field gets super unstable. It's very chaotic. You can't really predict it. We have some idea about what occurs, but the specifics in terms of we're going to have this solar flux push out here or there, you can't really predict that. So that's occurring right now. That lasts like 2 to 3 years. And there's kind of this middle period where you've reached this culmination before you start going down. And that's where we are in 2025. We had solar maximum basically start in 2024. And it'll basically wrap up in 2026. But 2025 is that center of the solar maximum peak. And so we just have more energy in general coming into the planet right now at this moment in time. That right there is a huge plasma filament eruption from the sun. That was taken some years ago. Just a quick note is that we have a plasma filament right now heading towards us. It's about to impact, just like that. So
pretty much the solar maximum is when the sun is blasting these out at its highest frequency.
Yeah. Much higher frequency.
Okay. So we're getting pummeled by these right now.
Yeah, and that's the foundation of March, because that's one of these very long period rhythms. Like the reason why I like looking at financial assets, or like let's say even things just like commodity prices or the price of gold across time or interest rates, any of these things, is that they show you these rhythms and trends that naturally manifest. And so we can see that with cryptocurrency. And so there's long period rhythms like the 4-year halving cycle for Bitcoin, right? And there's higher frequency rhythms like, Trump sends out a tweet about the strategic reserve that causes that God candle to pump up, right?
Yeah.
That's super high frequency and it dropped right back down. So the solar maximum is like one of these long period rhythms. It's a 12-year cycle. So you could call it like the halvening in that kind of context. You can, kind of associate it with one of these longer frequency rhythms, or like the type of frequency for how money supply is changing, quantitative tightening, quantitative easing, all this sort of stuff.
Right.
But then we have higher frequency rhythms stacked on top of solar maximum. And that's all happening in March. So we have the eclipse season this March. The eclipses are where you have the moon pass directly in front of the sun. That's the solar eclipse. Also, the moon in its full position behind the Earth will actually get eclipsed by the Earth. So it goes into shadow. So you have a full moon, all of a sudden it's now blood red because the shadow of the Earth is on it. We have that happening this March. We have March equinox, which just based on thousands of years of history and tradition and observations is a very charged energy point in time. And then we also have 4 different solar conjunctions. These are known as cazemis. And so this is when a planet is conjunct the sun. They're lined up together from our perspective here on Earth. Usually those are pretty significant energetic moments. We have 4 of them this month, which is quite a lot.
Wow.
We have 2 different retrogrades this month, and I think this is the most relevant to our discussion on, for example, financial markets and crypto. We have a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde. And Venus represents relationships and it also represents money, among many other things. But we'll just focus on those 2, relationships and money.
Okay. And
the day that Venus stationed retrograde, which is seen as like a higher energy point, when she comes to a standstill in the sky and then she starts to move backwards, the day that happened is when we had that meltdown in the Oval Office between Trump, Zelensky, and JD Vance. Yeah, so that's perfect timing on that. There's other archetypal signatures I could bring up that also are perfectly, encapsulating of that situation. But you can't really make this stuff up. Like, it was exactly on the day. And so when a planet's moving retrograde, based on the you could call it the science of astrology, right? Just what the body of knowledge that's been built up over thousands of years is that its expressions kind of get warped and they don't come out as nicely as they should. And so we have Venus now moving backwards for the next 6 weeks or so, 5.5 weeks or so. And so anything relating to finances and anything relating to relationships is going to be more volatile over that time period.
Okay.
Then we also have Mercury going retrograde at the same time in the same part of the sky. They're going retrograde together. And Mercury represents archetypally trade and also travel and just like merchant activity, right? Any of this sort of stuff.
Mercury going retrograde, we're used to. We know that's never good when it goes retrograde. But what you're saying is that Venus is going retrograde at the same time as Mercury.
That's probably the better way to think of it, yeah. Because we only get Venus retrograde every 18 months or so.
Okay.
But Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So, and that's why people kind of have better awareness of Mercury retrograde, because it happens more often and we see the effects of it.
Got you.
But Venus going retrograde is pretty significant. And the fact that they're doing at the same time in the same part of the sky together means that they are combining in this way. So we already saw how the start of Venus retrograde, we had with the leader of the free world had this meltdown with Zelensky in the Oval Office. And this is all happening in Aries, which is a sign of like combativeness and fire and passion.
Right.
Mercury very soon is going to join in, and the two are going to combine their signatures. So I expect there to be greater conflict in terms of trade, in terms of communication, in terms of travel. So like disruptions to, let's say, like supply lines could be an expression of that, which is also a disruption to trade. And communication that gets overly heated could further certain relationship meltdowns, which we're already seeing, like across the Europe-American boundary and divide, right?
100%.
And we're at the very beginning of this. So that's happening in March. And then you also have a generational shift with Neptune, which takes 14 years to move through a sign. We have Neptune moving into Aries, which is where this double retrograde is happening on March 30th. And so you just put all this together and you could do an 8-hour podcast explaining all the nuanced details of this, and you could probably get lost in it too much. But if you just look at all the different factors from like a kind of a broad view, you see that there's something big or multiple things big that are going to go down in March, because this energy has to express itself some way. So collectively and individually.
So do you think, and there's a chat, we see there's a lot of cool questions in there. I'm definitely going to get to those. Do you think that because all these things are affecting the ionosphere and the upper atmosphere, is it causing to bring out these volatile experiences? Or do you think that people higher up or in the know line events up during these times? Or do these things cause us to just...
I think it's both. I mean, sometimes the timing on this is too perfect. I mean,
crazy.
That's how God works.
Yeah.
We have to recognize that. But at the same time, we know, for example, Ronald Reagan, his wife Nancy had an astrologer.
I've heard about that.
And she consulted that astrologer like crazy. And in fact, Nancy, of course, held tremendous influence over Reagan. And so basically, there was like this soft power broker. Maybe that's not the right term, but there was someone with a lot of soft influence over the president and the first lady, who was an astrologer back in the 80s.
Right.
And I just see too many times, or for example, Apple. If you watch Apple
Yeah.
and their product announcements or certain key things that they do, they line it up perfectly with very archetypally resonant astrological transits.
Do they?
Yeah, a good example would be the launch of Vision Pro,
Yeah.
you know, their headset.
Yeah.
They launched that right as Pluto moved into Aquarius. And so Pluto can be seen as a transformative agent, and Aquarius is representative of technology and also people. And the big thing that they showed off with the Vision Pro is that you could be connecting to people around the world, right? They really showed off the community aspect of it,
Right.
like these in real life kind of meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also super complex technology, right? They had to do a lot of amazing things to build this Vision Pro. And so this is being seen as this transformation of how we interact with each other in technology. And they released it with that first ingress. That's a 20-year cycle. So how is that going to play out for the next 20 years? Like they basically made a 20-year bet on that. And it's not been doing well, but it's only been like the first year and a half. So who knows about the future? You won't see me with one of those on. I don't want brain cancer, but regardless, I saw someone for the first time actually walking around outside with one on. I was like, oh God, it's happening.
Did you?
So
you must
yeah,
be. You're on the
crazy.
West Coast for sure.
Yeah. But that's a good example. Apple does that. I mean, I see this all the time. Now that I've studied it enough to just kind of like get it,
Yeah.
like I definitely think people in the know higher up. If I can study, I think these people up there are often studying it too, because there's something to it. And I've been making some trades based off of it recently. I've been looking at the market through this lens, and I have been spot on over the past like 3-4 months, which is that long of a time frame. I mean, I've had other periods where I've done really well, right?
And it's
But
been
I've been really good past 3 months.
really. All right, we need to talk
Yeah.
more. We need to bring you on. Pup, should I invite Stefan onto an after hours live stream? I think so. I think we got to bring you
do
on
it.
because I'll tell you the truth. The last few months are technically have been very difficult for everybody, and I know some very talented traders. So if they've been giving you an edge in the market, I mean that's something because people are losing their minds for sure. So someone already confirmed yes. So you're coming. You got to come on the after hours live. Well,
right.
for you, it's not going to be that late. It's only late for me because I know where you are. So you're way ahead of me. So
Yeah, it's actually perfect time for me.
actually, you'll be fine.
I mean, the one thing, just to say this quickly, that has, like, I feel like given me a significant edge over the past 2 months, just in terms of kind of knowing where the market's going, crypto market,
Yeah.
is that I did an I-Ching reading specifically for a trade that I had. I put a big position in on something,
Really?
and I was looking at things. I was ready at like a level of uncertainty.
Okay.
Like I already was like 90%, kind of like, I think this is going to go down. And then I did this I-Ching, which is Chinese divination. And it gave me this answer that was so resonant with the current energy of the times and also the astrological transits.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is crazy. So I followed through on that advice, and it's lined up perfectly. So we could do that at the end of this if you want to as well, because that was just for a trade that I did, but we could do one for the entire market. That could be fun.
I think we should do that. I don't even need to ask chat. I think they're already, they probably want to. Oh, let me catch
But
this.
that was spot on.
Yeah? All right. We definitely have to do
I'll
that.
describe it more later.
Do you think because of what's happening, if you tap in, you can actually get stronger access to the to answers and the all, so to speak? Or do you think what's going on is creating so much chaos that it's actually hard to tune in right now? Or do you think you actually can get, like you're saying, you did this thing and you got a clear thing, and
Well, to give you my quick thought on that, first thing that kind of popped in my mind. First is that we have to recognize that every thought is an abstraction. So anything that we think or any perspective that we have is technically not the truth. It's never going to be the truth. It's always going to be some abstraction from that. Maybe get really close, but it's never going to be 100%. So I think the kind of chaotic energies, they may not be stopping us from kind of building that connection to source or spirit or any of these things. But I think it may be acting more as a distracting agent, because kind of what I've noticed, at least in my life, is that I see a little bit about how the universe acts a little bit like a supercomputer.
Yeah.
So like, if you put out a question to the universe, typically it will give you an answer. Universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And all that's required for you to get the answer is to put out the question and to have a little bit of patience and to be observant. And I really don't think it's like there's a queue and you have to fight people to like make sure your question gets heard. I think they all get heard and they all get answered. But if you're not putting the question out because you're distracted or whatever, then you're not going to get your answer. And so I think there's maybe just more of a distracting agent at this time. If we look at the astrology really quickly, we have Jupiter right now in Gemini. Gemini is relating to communication and it's relating to information. And in some aspects, it's also connected to like technology and artificial intelligence. And Jupiter is this agent of growth and expansion. And archetypally, Jupiter is seen in its fall in Gemini, because it's not really one to get into details like that. That's a mercurial thing. Jupiter just likes to, feel the presence of God more so than like try to understand what God is. And so Jupiter, though, is bringing this expansion to information. I think that's why there's been this big boost in people kind of consuming like social media and more podcasts. And everyone's like information deprived, but also information overloaded. They feel information deprived. But in reality, we're consuming more than ever before, but it's not the highest expression because, again, Jupiter's in its fall. And so it's like, there can be a lot of deception out there. I mean, we saw a whole bunch of fake AI videos now, and people during the drone thing in New Jersey pointing their camera at Venus in the sky and saying it's a UFO, and like a whole bunch of like nonsense. So we have that problem right now.
Yeah.
A lot of clearly fake AI videos for these drones were made. That's just one example that people are like, oh my God, look, there's a whole swarm of them. It's like, this is so clearly fake. But then a big channel pushes out the video. And so we have that going on right now. But yeah, there's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening. My friend Abdullah asks, could you ask Stephen what his perspective about the blood moon? Tell us more about the blood moon.
Yeah, so this is one of the two
14th,
eclipses that we have coming up. Yeah, March 14th. And it's happening in Virgo if we use Western Tropical. It's happening in Leo if we use True Sky position. And this is where we have a full moon, which is really seen as this energy climax moment. We get them every 28 days. A lot of people, especially like nurses, they'll tell you 100%, yeah, there's a full moon, we get more people in the psych ward going crazy, more ER visits, things of this nature. When it goes blood red, that's because it's passing into the shadow of the Earth. The Earth is always casting a shadow, just as the moon is always casting a shadow, every single planet, because the sun is just always emitting light. But normally the moon isn't aligned with that shadow because it's slightly off from it. But during the eclipses, you will have the moon pass into that shadow, turns it a blood red. And so it's this really interesting kind of archetypal signature of how you have the moon at full light and strength, you could say, which only happens when it's in that full position. But only by being in that full position and aligned with the Earth can it get cast into that shadow in the first place. And then it only turns this blood red color. And so with an eclipse, it's already seen as like a supercharged energy point. But this could be seen as like, for example, some sort of energy climax, which then has like kind of a shock to it. Some kind of shock event or ending or something like that. There's a lot of ways it can express, but that is occurring on the 14th, and that kind of is the first thing that ramps everything up.
Ramps everything up. So it's not the climax. energetically?
For the
it is
moon,
declining?
it is.
Okay.
But for the month, it's not. I would say for the month, it's kind of like a spark that could get things going.
Get things going. So the blood moon is not in a negative omen, or you're saying spark. It's a start, a starting omen.
Yeah, I mean, I also personally like negative, positive. You can break things into that, but everything has a flip side to it. So something that looks negative initially could end up being super positive in the long run. So, right. But
Right. So it could be, for example, this markdown we're going through with the markets, and it's in all the markets, right? It could be coming to its end or peak at that time, or maybe it wraps up and makes a pivot at that time, possibly, or no.
Well, I think that's going to occur in April.
Okay.
But that's getting a little bit ahead of the blood moon. But I think that's going to occur in April because that's when I have a few different things. And maybe I'm just some crazy dude on YouTube, right? But I have a few. We have the Venus and the Mercury retrograde both coming to an end in the beginning of April.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of them kind of having their flawed expression is going to be over.
Okay.
We also, if we look at a more data-driven point, we know that all the European countries and a lot of countries around the world have been aggressively cutting their interest rates. And so money supply has been increasing globally. The United States hasn't been cutting rates. They did in September, and they stopped basically right when Trump, or I think it was in July actually, but they stopped right when Trump took office, right? It's a little bit of a power play. But we haven't cut rates since then. But if you look at Germany, they've been in recession now for like 2 years. You look at a lot of the other European countries, they've been contracting, and so they're pretty aggressively cutting rates now. And so overall money supply is going up. And maybe you've seen some of this content from certain creators, but there's like a lag time, a really good correlation between global monetary supply and cryptocurrencies, because as a risk asset, you need money supply overall to be going up. So even if the United States isn't easing yet, they will eventually.
They will, yeah.
But on the global scale, there's already a lot of easing that's occurring because economies are so weak on the global scale. And so that also lines up exactly when we have both Mercury and Venus retrograde coming to an end. So that's another data point. And then the third data point is this I-Ching reading that I did. And again, we could do a new one for this video. But the I-Ching reading that I did, to sum it up pretty quickly, was it gave me two answers. You flip these coins and you get one of 64 answers because of how they land. And depending on some of the combinations, you can actually get two answers. And so it's an evolution going from the first answer to the second answer. So it gives you a pretty clear progression of how things are going to evolve. The first answer that I got was conflict. And I did this back early January. And this was right at the beginning of like there being some talks about the tariffs, you could say. And so I was like, yeah, I think that is going to happen. I think that's going to be a bigger deal than people think right now. At this moment in time, the markets had not priced in tariffs because you're still at like over $100,000 for Bitcoin. And it literally came up as conflict. I'm like, all right, that looks like conflict to me.
Yeah.
And then I looked into these retrogrades and the expression of, again, like Mercury being, trade going haywire, communication going haywire, and Venus being finances going haywire, and relationships. The second answer I got from this I-Ching was abysmal. And the specific expressions of these two was that it was heaven over water.
Uh-huh.
And so that's conflict. And so water is this influence that wants to drag you down, right? It has weight. And it's like, here's the reality of the situation.
Right.
And then heaven is all the moon boys and moon girls smoking all the hopium, right? Like, no, we can keep this party going. We got crypto president, right? Back then, people still liked him. Of course, people's mindset shifts very quickly. So I was like, okay, I see that playing out right now. And the specific thing that changed it to a second answer, abysmal, it has a line and the line said, a cautious halt halfway is smart. It will bring you good fortune. And so I asked this for a trade that I was doing. And I was like, well, a halt halfway means basically going to cash and not holding this asset anymore. I had built up a big position. I was slightly up on it because it actually just come out of a little bit of a decline. And so it was up. And I was like, okay, no, I'll just go to cash. I'm not liking kind of where this is going. I hope I'm right. We'll see. So I took that cautious halt halfway. And then heaven flips to water as well. So now it's water over water, and that gives you abysmal. And it's like representative of going down to like the lowest point that water can go, like the deep abysmal plain or underground reservoirs. And you know, abysmal is like people, like extreme fear on the fear and greed index, and people thinking we're in a bear market now, though that would be pretty crazy if you were in a bear market based on the halving cycle and things of that nature. But people think we're in a bear market now. Like they think that December 2024 is the top. Maybe. But you see people's sentiment has now shifted really negative. And abysmal over abysmal. Abysmal is water over water. And Venus and Mercury are both moving into Pisces. Hoping I can keep this so everyone can follow. Pisces is water over water. It's a double-bodied water sign. That's what it's called. And so it's perfectly archetypally resonant with the I-Ching of abysmal. And the reading for abysmal is very simple. It says, if you have pure good intentions in your heart, whatever you do will succeed. And so I think it's really giving a message of, even if we go to a really dark place, or, you know, let's say the markets, because this was done for a trade, if you go really far down, so long as you have like conviction that things will go up and it's based in good intention, then that's going to be very like fortunate for you. Like you'll have a lot of fortune as a result of that. And that's, of course, when people buy, when others are fearful, they typically make a good trade. And so that lines up also with the beginning of April, which is when we have this correlation between monetary supply globally and Bitcoin price movement. There's like a 2.5 month delay there.
Yeah.
And then also with the double retrogrades. So, I mean, when I get three things, I know there's something there. So that's what I'm going off of.
So, you know, it's really interesting too, for my TA, that a way I've been looking at it have been that March, this was going to be kind of messy. And I think people expected going into the blood moon. It wasn't a shocker. You know, everyone knew we had a blood moon coming up. And then I felt we were going to go through this nasty spell and then possibly turn around after this blood moon, or April-ish, you know, right into April, and start pumping at a time when normally markets would be going to sell off. So normally it's, you know, the phrase sell in May and go away. So if you front run that, usually tops would come in April, right? And then the final capitulation starts in May or whatever. Where I'm thinking now it's going to be flip-flop, and I've been telling people to be open to the fact that maybe we start pumping in April and we actually run through the summer and do something
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Very opposite and counter what people are expecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that we still get some sort of top in latter half of the year. You know, just a quick note that you could jog down and check this out later, but this most recent fake out that we had with the tweet with Trump and the market going up is very similar to what occurred in October of 2019. So specifically like October 20th of 2019, you look at the Bitcoin chart. Yeah. I remember I was on a plane flying from Guam back home, and I was talking to someone at the airport, and they're like, Bitcoin, that's so dumb. It was like $7,000 or something at the time. It was like in this bottom period, and then it had this God candle where it went up like 20%. And on the train, I was just laughing at myself like, what a chump. Like he could have joined in on this, right? But then the downturn was still not done, and it continued to go down further.
What was the date?
And so that's like October 20th of 2019. It's the boundary on each side of that. But yeah, you'll see it right in there if you zoom in. It's after that. This is 2019.
Oh, 2019.
So it's more like in that zone right there. Okay. But if you punch in, yeah, so see that drop?
Yeah.
The bucket, and then it drops even further in that big God candle?
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is reminding me of. What's happening right now, we see that we did eventually go below that.
We did go below it.
And that was the abysmal period.
And we went below it again for the zombie moment.
Yeah, and that was that flash crash.
Now, people have analyzed this a lot, and I certainly have a lot too. And when people talk about it was a black swan, but when you analyze this, you actually see that there was weakness already, right? I mean, generally this is already, somebody knew something, right? It's moving down, right? And then there was, maybe they posted bullish news to get liquidity back in, but it seemed like maybe people knew we were going, see you later, bye-bye there. I don't know, possibly. Who knows?
It was a good point, though. Like, I mean, that March 2020 flash crash was, it gave people want a deal, too. I mean, there's also this, like, simple behavioral stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like, at 100K, it was so fresh and so recent, no one really wanted to buy that. I mean, some people, Sailor, he doesn't know how to read a chart, right? He's scooping it up. But
I know
like,
someone who sold it. I know someone who sold it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, I don't want to buy Bitcoin at 100K. They want a deal. But all of a sudden, if it was 100 or even 105, and then it goes to 70, now you feel like you're getting a deal again. You know, there's a psychological aspect too. And that flash crash in 2022 gave people that deal because it went to 3,500 and then it stayed at 5,000 for a while. And then it really started to charge up.
Yeah, yeah.
But my kind of perspective too on this is that macro cycles can't really be overcome. Like this Trump pump and dump that just occurred, right? We are in this macro downtrend that's occurring for a lot of factors beyond even what I've listed. I've talked about more of the kind of woo-woo ones you could say with the astrology. But this Trump pump is like a high frequency kind of, can we break that cycle? No, like the macro conditions are still going to override them. They're more powerful. You have the tide coming out and you kicking your feet in the water is not going to push the water back to shore, right? Not in any significant way. And so look, it went right back down. I think we're just going to see a lot of volatility this month.
Okay.
I could see us on Friday having another Trump pump, especially if he announces the fact that there won't be any capital gains tax on crypto. You know, all of a sudden that could cause a Trump pump. But I think the macro pool, the tide is still coming out. I don't think that's going to turn around until April. Could be wrong. Again, who knows? But so far, the past like 3 months, based on the astrology and the I-Ching and just all my normal studies of like financial trends and what's been happening with like liquidity and yields and all that stuff, it's all been lining up for like the past 3 months. I don't want to go further back because I've just recently started interpreting the market through these lenses. So it's fairly new.
Got you. Well, you know, what's interesting that you're saying that as well is, you know, I have this channel and it's pretty basic. I mean, it's just a channel on the log chart going back to when we fell from that last thing, FTX FUD or whatever, and 15K. And I just ran a channel all the way up. Nothing special about it at all, except the fact that we've been respecting it quite well. And it really depends how you draw it too. I mean, you could certainly tweak this to be something like this as well, and it still holds up just fine. And what's interesting about it was we're right here. I'm going to go back to where I had it before though, because I think that's really interesting now. We're kind of dancing on it right now. And if you take this trend line, which is a trend line that I think is really important, it's been holding up really well because we've always bounced back and come above it. And just ran a trend line from up here for quite a few of these wicks. And you see every time we break below it, we come right back above it. And the major candle closes are happening right above it. Obviously, you can slightly play with that a little bit, you know. But what's interesting, if you bring it to the end of the channel, that is March 25th. And, you know, if you... Here's April 1st right here, just slightly outside that channel. And like I said, you can move this around just a little bit. And that would line up perfectly with a bounce off the support of the lower band of this channel and obviously a move to the upside And, you know, top of this channel, if you were to go in April, that's around 140, which is...
It's a nice channel. That's a nice pattern. I haven't seen that one yet. Simple, but yeah,
just simple. Works just simple, yeah.
Beautifully. And the longer the time frame for technical analysis, the better. So that one's been going for how many years now? Like 2-3 years?
This channel?
Or is that like a year and a half?
Yeah, look, this is...
yeah, that's going all the way from...
2022, October
2022?
Of 2022. Yeah. So it's been rock solid, you know, and I have some other charts as well, but yeah, I mean, I think this one tells like a really nice story when you pull back, zoom out on it. It's the fact that nothing's broken on BTC at all. I mean, I would be more concerned. I don't know. Do you have any insights about Ethereum? Because Ethereum, you know, is really, I mean, just...
It's been brutal.
Yeah. Do you look at Ethereum?
I mean, that's what got me into crypto, but I just am not the biggest fan of it anymore. I think there's bad actors everywhere, but
yeah.
I think there's more shadow forces with Ethereum than a lot of people would like to admit or recognize
100%,
or even are aware of.
100%. I've tried telling people that, you know,
I mean, I got
BlackRock is it runs a show there. It's run by dark entities, and they're keeping it down.
I think there also is a lot of unloading that's still happening with like the founders and early people, and
yeah,
like this Trump pump saying we're going to add Solana, XRP, and you know Cardano to the crypto reserve. It's like, why the heck would we want to like use taxpayer dollars to buy these pre-mined like venture capital, like shit coins? Like, it makes no sense.
That's true. But I'll take
it. But those are the people that gave him a lot of campaign money, right? So that's why.
Interesting. I didn't know the backstory on that. Okay. It's always something
especially
like that.
Charles.
Did he?
Especially, yeah. I mean, he's been putting a lot of time and effort into that, into the Trump campaign and into the election. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of clear as day to me, at least, that was basically a way for him to pay back some of his crypto supporters, and that I think will probably continue. But there's no sense to that. I mean, people talk about XRP and its ledger technology, but it hasn't been doing shit for like 10 years now. So, like, you could go into, oh, well, they had this new Swift. No, they haven't been doing basically anything since they came out. There's been no actual, like, real world, like, use case of that basically since they came out. And it's 90% controlled by the owners. And I mean, it doesn't mean I haven't played with it before, but if we just have to look at it very honestly, I mean, like Ethereum was pre-mined and then sold, but at least there's a lot of stuff that's been built on it by a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Right? And you have other people just building things on it. You know, there's some good value there. But XRP doesn't have any. For like 2 years or 3 years, the only value proposition people were saying to buy it was to beat the SEC, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're running completely off of a court case for your value proposition, I have some problems. I personally have some problems with that. Maybe other people don't, but I do. Like, come on. How is that adding any value to the world? So just a little side rant. But the same thing could be said for Solana and Cardano, basically. I mean, there's no apps really being built on Cardano. Like, actual people using them, apps. This is what I'm talking about.
It's doing nothing. PulseChain is doing about 50x the volume. No, maybe not 50 right now, but at least 30 to 50x the volume of Cardano. Easily.
Really?
Easily every day.
This is a transaction volume, or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What do you think, chat? Does anybody out there have the current stat for the volume right now? But I mean, it's literally a joke. Cardano is not doing anything. PulseChain is on fire. I mean, people are over here. It's incredible the amount of activity happening over on PulseChain. XRP and XLM, Laurel Mary says, XRP and XLM are backed by gold and silver. It's about to spike with the announcement of the Republic. No more Fed fiat system. You know, a lot of people in the XRP, like my friends that are XRP and XLM, they swear up and down that XLM and XRP are about to be like the new financial system. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so.
It's,
If you're going to build a new, well, first off, we now see the technology's been built out that these distributed ledgers can be made pretty easily. People have done it. Most of the code is open source. So yeah, there's an existing technology, the XRP, but let's look at, for example, Litecoin really quick. It would not be able to handle the volume of, let's say, replacing fiat, but it's the one project in existence with 100% uptime since it was founded. It hasn't missed a single block since it was created. I don't think you can say that for basically any other crypto. Maybe some of the newer projects because they haven't been around long enough to have some failed blocks or whatever. But, you know, XRP hasn't had that doesn't have that stat or that it can't boast that, right? And so why would you build the entire global financial system off of a technology that's going to enrich like a core group of people that built it? No, you just spin up a new one and it's just be built by the government.
One thing I've said before in that regard is that they might use a similar code of XRP, or they may copy it, but they'll rename it something and it'll be their thing, even though it may be XRP type thing under the hood, so to speak. Somebody else was asking, Brenton. He says, well, Brenton just mentioned North Korea sold the last stack of hacked ETH. I don't know.
That's definitely 1.5 billion.
Yeah. It's not a problem for me because it's being bought up to some extent. I think the exchange that lost it has been buying up an equivalent amount. So it's kind of evened out to some extent. But that's not the only reason, ETH is weak. I mean, it has its own issues.
One other thing, two more data points to add to the beginning of April being when I think things turn around.
Okay.
Is that we'll have more, well, I guess three things. We'll have more clarity on these tariffs over the next month.
Right.
So that's the first one. Because right now people are just really uncertain about everything, but there's going to be more clarity as we get further into the administration. Second is that if you go to the Bitcoin chart, there's a pattern that you probably know of, but if you've been watching crypto for a long time astutely, then you'll notice this. So see that first, if we go back to, yeah, you can keep it right there. You can even zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, right there. Yeah, exactly. Right where your cursor is, go up a little bit. See that little zone? No, further down. See that second blue line in the middle? $77,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and see where Bitcoin first jumped up and spent just a couple of days there and then shot up higher?
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed in crypto is that often on the beginning of a bull run or some new phase of expansion, it will retest that initial zone where it had just, not uncertainty, but it needed to just have a few days of kind of testing the waters there before going up higher. And so it will have this, they'll have that initial jump and then the big jump afterwards, which we see going beyond 80,000.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually it will retest it. And typically when it does retest that value, it's very, very quick. And we nearly had that earlier. So maybe we've already done that retest. But we did have it wick down to like 78,000 or so just recently, right?
Yeah. I mean, part of me
that's
is like,
effectively that retest.
Yeah, and it could have been all that needed. I mean, we could also come back and fill it again or go even slightly lower. I don't know. But there was a CME gap because it moved on the weekend there. So, most of it got filled.
That's a pattern I see play out time and time again, and not just on Bitcoin, for example, but across a lot of other cryptocurrencies. The third thing, and we're going back to the astrology now, is that we have this astrological sequence that's in play right now. And this is the fact that Mars is opposing Pluto. And the first one occurred on November 3rd with the election, and we had crypto pump on that day, or like the day afterwards, with that first opposition. And then with the second opposition, we also had crypto pump on that day. And that was early January. And that's actually when I decided to take that cautious halt halfway based on the I-Ching. And I decided to because Mars opposing Pluto is definitely a configuration of conflict. Pluto is seen as like power, and Mars is seen as conflict and aggression and anger, and them in opposition is one of conflict, right? So on the second one, it pumped up, it got me back in the green and even a little bit more, and then I did the I-Ching. I was like, I'm going to take that cautious halt halfway. I sold. We have another one coming up, but on the prior two oppositions, crypto's actually gone up on them. The first one, November 3rd, it went up a lot. The one back on January, it was specifically, if I look here, January 5th, we could say. And you'll see that green candle right around that time. That was the second opposition. The third one is in April. So we have that third and final opposition, which is encapsulating this entire sequence that we've been in since November 3rd, wrapping up in April. And I could look specifically for that date. Because I don't have it at the top of my head. I think it's around the same time, though. I think it's early April. Let me find it. No, it's late April. It's the 27th of April.
Really?
Is that third and final opposition between Mars and Pluto.
I put a line
and
there
then
on my
Mars
chart.
moves ahead and it's over.
Put a line.
But if you go to like January 4th,
okay.
you'll see that pump
That's right.
for the second opposition.
It's right here.
Yep, that's it. So I mean, there's been other ones too, but that lined up pretty nice. And then the November 3rd one was a big initiation sequence. And that was the first one.
Okay.
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
That should be at the beginning of that whole sequence right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so there's one here. So this could be the beginning of something, possibly.
Yeah. So it's all kind of pointing towards like April, whether it's early April with those retrogrades ending, but more so like mid-April, late April. I think we're going to start moving out of this pattern then. And also this other thing I've learned with watching crypto for a long time is that these patterns just need to be long enough too. Sometimes we look at them, we think they're about to go up, but it's just too early yet. It's just not big enough yet. It just needs to be bigger,
Right.
to put it really simply. And now it's starting to get a little bigger because it has now gone down. It's a little bit longer in time, but there's a point, like for example, the last pattern right there, back in 2024, where we had that falling channel. That played out for a while. People kept thinking we were going to go up, we were going to go up, we were going to go up, but it just needed time to get bigger, and
crazy?
then it did.
If we just chopped sideways for the next 2 months, because we've done it before. We've done this through the cycle where we just go sideways for freaking ever, and then we have a giant impulsive move up, and then we go sideways forever, and then we have this giant move up. And we could do that because those really wear people out, that kind of chop. Like if we just went sideways, people lose their sanity. They lose their mind. And what's interesting is that date you're giving is technically when markets would top traditionally. And one thing I've been talking about, like I said earlier in the video, is maybe we do the inverse, where actually we begin a mega pump starting there going through the summer instead of doing what we normally do, which is top and then go weaker into the summer. And that lines up really well because a lot of charts top end of April and then sell in May, so to speak, all that, right? So this would be doing the inverse of that possibly, unless we pump end of March, April, and we hit a high, and then we fall off then as well, I suppose.
I think there's going to be a lot of cautious optimism too once we do break out of this downtrend. And so I don't think it's going to be a blistering hot pump like we saw start with the election of Trump, where all of a sudden markets were already primed. There was a lot of cash on the side, and it's like, boom, we got our crypto president, let's go, right? After this, people are going to be cautious, but it will take some time to reverse that, get that fire built again, and then, I can see that going till the end of the year. And then if that's the case, you break some of these short-term patterns that you're talking about, which would flush a lot of people out, especially those who are new, don't have the patience, and can't divest themselves of their emotions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you would actually preserve the long-term pattern, because financial markets work well when there's some level of stability to them. And so, say what you will about Biden, people pretty much knew the policy of his administration. And so there was this, and they also kept pumping a ton of money into it. They did not stop stimulus, basically. But there was a sense of stability with Biden that there isn't with Trump. And say what you will about Trump, whether what he's doing is good or bad, right? He's just doing things, which is volatile.
Right,
and
right.
so it doesn't surprise me that at the end of Biden's term, but with the start of Trump optimism before reality set in, we saw that big move up with crypto, because people knew that Biden wasn't going to do anything dramatic. At the same time, there was optimism for Trump, but now we're in the, okay, there's, let's say, optimism for Trump, but there's also all these new things happening that we're worried about. Once that gets flushed out, the optimism comes back in a more dominant, as a more dominant influence. But then you preserve that 4-year cycle where you have a top in either October, November, December, maybe even early January of next year, which is the same as 2021, it's the same as 2017, same as 2013. And that is that long-term stable pattern that a lot of people are betting on, especially the people who have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you know, it's 500, and, I believe, 50 days. I don't remember the exact number of the cycle, but I remember it ends technically about October of 2025, if it were to just play out like a normal cycle. And
Yeah.
I do think it's 100% we're going to get there. And I even have a feeling we could even go longer, if anything, but not shorter, like some doomers have been predicting. Look, I'm going to take 1 second, 1 minute break. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah? Okay, cool. I'll put this up.
I'll jump into the comments, though.
Yeah, check out the comments. We're going to answer some questions. I'll be back in 1 minute. There's a lot of great questions, chat, so I'll be right back. And in the meantime, also, I put up his YouTube channel. You guys, if you're not subscribed already, Stephen Burns, Earth, Sun, Spirit. Be right back.
Yeah, jump in there, guys. All right, now that Saint Wolf is gone, what's up, everyone? Let me jump into this live stream to see what you're all saying. Maybe I can answer some questions. 150 people watching, that's pretty great. Okay, amazing stream thus far from JBud. Thanks so much. Hopefully you take XRP as a form of payment on your channel. I actually don't really have any crypto donation buckets. I mean, I have, but only one person has ever given me anything via crypto. Let's just say that crypto is not going away from Wisecracker. I think that's right. If we just quickly look at the astrology, if we take that as our focus, Pluto in Aquarius is very much representative of empowering these sort of decentralized, community-driven technologies, which is basically exactly what blockchain is, especially the decentralized ones. I see Meta 8 is in there. So what up, bro? What if they make the tariffs only payable in crypto, forcing all countries to get their own crypto reserves? That's an interesting idea. Who knows? Something I've thought of as well as it relates to tariffs is that while, I mean, they could tariff commodities, for example, let's say like copper, steel. They already are doing steel and aluminum. But crypto is an excellent way to be able to move money around without it getting tariffed, basically. So I think we are going to see, after these tariffs get put into place, I think we're going to see more people utilize these decentralized ways of moving money around that don't involve the banks, especially because we saw in 2020 and, well, really starting in 2022, the heavy sanctions put on Russia. And so there's this lack of trust in international banking that crypto gets around. And now these systems are even more developed, and people are more confident using, let's say, Bitcoin or Litecoin or Monero or whatever to transfer money around. So I think tariffs will ultimately help crypto in that regard gain use case. And these are going to be like bigger transfers too, not, Jesus sending money back to Abuela in Mexico, but like big transfers across companies, for example. Another thing to mention really quick while you're here, just to add more evidence to how astrology affects financial markets. We have two big transits that just occurred in the crypto market. We had Pluto move from the very end of Capricorn into the beginning of Aquarius. This is Western tropical astrology. Well, the Jupiter for Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was founded, Jupiter was in a certain part of the sky, has a 12-year orbit around the sun. It was at the very end of Capricorn when it was founded, its first block. And so we had Pluto just move over that. That's a once in a 250-year cycle. So that's not going to happen again for another 250 years. It's very fortuitous to have that occur because depending on your birth chart, not everyone's going to have that sort of transit in their lifetime, or for example, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin had its Jupiter at the very end of Capricorn, which is representative of traditional financial systems, ruled by Saturn. Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, but represented more of like kind of the quirky collective consciousness and decentralized systems. So it's right at that boundary. Jupiter being the greater benefic of good fortune and seen as this thing that controls big life fortunate events. Whereas Venus is like smaller beneficial life events, maybe on a day-to-day time frame. Jupiter is like something like you got a windfall, like a big thing. When Pluto passed over Bitcoin's Jupiter, that's when the bull run started last year, basically. And it had its final pass over that around November and December of this year. Or sorry, of 2024.
You said when?
Which is when
Jupiter passed over Pluto.
No, Pluto passed over Jupiter. This Jupiter is just the birth chart Jupiter, where it was. Mm-hmm. So now it's just a fixed point in the sky. If we look at Bitcoin and how it connects to these energies, if you believe this stuff. But Pluto passed over that Jupiter. Yeah, Pluto passed over that Jupiter, and we saw this huge growth in the price of Bitcoin exactly at that moment in time.
Okay.
Now we can go back and look at another cryptocurrency that's very similar, which is Dogecoin. And by similar, I mean that they were both they're both proof of work. They're both fair launched. Satoshi hasn't revealed himself. He may be dead, so he hasn't sold anything as far as we know. So basically, the founder stash hasn't been touched with Bitcoin. But Dogecoin, the founders never really mined it, or if they did, they sold it really early. So there's no
they sold
active
it early, I think is the thing.
Yeah, there's no like pre-mine with someone sitting on 60% of the supply. That's what I'm getting at. So they're mined all across the world. They're both older, right? Dogecoin's like 2014. Bitcoin's the first one, of course. Dogecoin has its Venus at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So Pluto passed over Dogecoin's Venus, the lesser benefic of good fortune, and of course, as we mentioned at the very beginning, of finances and things of this nature, back in 2021. And that transit, basically it did 5 passes over that point because Pluto moves slowly and it goes back and forth, kind of oscillates. The third transit of the 5th one was right during its crazy uptrend, basically in like March or February to April of 2021. And then as it started to move away from Venus, that's when it started to go down again. But it had 2 passes over it before its mega pump in 2021. Mm-hmm. And then it had 2 passes right at points where it was a good point to sell it. Internet Machine says I'm a Magi. Maybe it's true. But that is, I think that's very interesting. And I can actually just quickly pull that up if you want to see it. But it like lines up perfectly.
Yeah, if you want to share it, we can send it over. And Pups, it's cool. Last time I talked, by the way, there's another video, a conversation I did with Stephen, or Stefan, a few months ago. And we actually did, I think we did maybe HEX or PulseChain chart, didn't we? And it lined up perfectly with some interesting points. And we can definitely do a deep dive. I don't know if we'll have time tonight, but on our last interview, it's in my on my channel. We did line up some interesting points for, I think, Hex. Maybe it was for the PulseChain launch as well. But
involving Saturn.
Involving Saturn, that's right. Yeah. It was very cool.
And actually, that reminded me that I showed this chart last time, but this is just like further supportive evidence of the fact that there's something between crypto and astrology.
Okay.
That the thing is too, is that as more people would start to track this stuff, I think its effectiveness may even start to decrease because it's going to smooth out the potential, right? Like, if you buy a good deal, let's say a company, right? You buy them and then they go up 10x. Well, they were clearly worth more, but you caught them, the value proposition, you identified it before everyone else did. And that's how you made your money. And then the market caught up. And I think that's kind of the case with crypto astrology right now too, is that if you understand both of them, you see the value proposition and you see it's pretty good guide as to what's going to occur. But since not many people are using it, that interchange between the two hasn't equalized, because the more people that do it, the more it'll kind of equalize out those energies, like an arbitrage almost. And so I think there's a ton of opportunity right now for people to study astrology and crypto at the same time and to make some good money off of that, if they have a little bit of risk appetite as well. But I sent you a chart in the chat if you want to pull that one up for just a minute to show specific transits. Yeah, so those red lines right there. That's Pluto conjoining Venus in Dogecoin's chart. And look how perfectly that lines up, both with good buying opportunities with the first two, and then with the inflection point with the third one, and then with good selling opportunities with the second two, both on like little bumps up right before the bear trend started.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus, of course, being representative of finances and being the lesser benefic, of good things.
Interesting.
Now, Jupiter has its Mercury at 2 degrees of Aquarius, where Pluto is right now. And we've been seeing how people have been talking about Bitcoin a lot on the public stage. For example, the President of the United States. We've also been seeing all this talk about the strategic reserve and stuff.
Yeah.
Dogecoin has its moon at 2 degrees of Aquarius. And so how that's going to affect it, it's not Venus, now it's the moon, which is typically representative of the people and also of fortune, like the tides and rhythms of fortune. How Pluto moving over the moon, I don't know how it's going to translate to the price. We are seeing now Elon run around with his Department of Government Efficiency, which is also called Doge.
It's also called Doge, yeah.
Yeah, and so that is causing quite a bit of emotions across not only the United States, but the world.
Yeah.
But we have 4 of those transits. And we just passed the second one, which was on February 4th. And we have 2 more coming up. You'll notice on August 13th of this year, and then 12/12. And I think that August and December one will be good times to sell Dogecoin.
The August and the September one.
Yeah, or December one. I think those will be good times to sell Dogecoin based off of this.
Okay.
But who knows? Who knows?
Right.
That's effectively how that's going to work for me, is that with my Dogecoin position, when those dates hit, I'm going to take a serious look at the price and what I have and kind of put my emotions aside and say, okay, is it actually smart for me? Like, just for my best interest, should I sell some? Because when you're in the heat of a bull market and things are pumping like crazy, you're like, no, I'll just hold it all the way to the moon, right?
Yeah.
And then you regret it later.
So we're half. If you had sold on that one for January, what was it, 4th or something on that chart, you'd be up.
Yeah.
It's half the value right now. Here it is. No, I'm sorry, February 4th. Hold on, let me see.
Yeah, I sold at 39 cents. And now it's at like 18.
Yeah, it's that.
Or 18, 19.
It's about 20. But on this chart, if you had sold February 4th, you would not have sold at a good point, necessarily.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, I would have to look at the price, but February 4th, And I'm not as certain on the Pluto going over the moon
Okay, gotcha.
as it relates to the price, because it is different than Venus. So I'm still trying to figure out what that means.
But the first two Venuses of the year were good, were really strong for 2020 at least. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And actually, that's when I ended up buying it, just kind of before I knew this.
Man, maybe you know what it is? It's giving us not sell signals here for the moon. You think these could be the buy signals? Or it's not strong like the Venus one, so it's different.
I don't know. It could be representative more of, like, say, societal events. I mean, we'd have to do a retrospective look at the 2nd of, the 4th of February.
Right.
This car alarm keeps going off
I
in
know.
my area. I hope. I'm sorry, you guys. But if we look actually at the chart, the 2nd of February was a big drawdown in the price. So that was a good buy signal.
Yeah. It might have been the buy
It's actually a perfect buy signal. I mean, to be only off by 2 days
Go to the daily.
is pretty spot on. It's more like, okay, around that time frame, there may be something.
Yeah, exactly. That time frame. Like on the 3rd of February, it was 20 cents where we are now. So it was an epic time to pick it up. Yeah.
Exactly. I watched that one. I decided not to buy back in because I had the I-Ching reading in my head. I was like, I think we're going lower. But if you had caught that exact bottom, you would still be you wouldn't be too unhappy right now, right? You wouldn't be too underwater.
Yeah, you'd be all right. No, it's okay. I mean, you have to DCA. I mean, you're never going to catch the bottom,
Yeah.
I mean, if you do,
But
great.
if you did buy it and then sold it at just like a day later, then you went up 50% basically.
It's a good move. Yeah, it's a good move for sure.
Yeah. So that lines up pretty nicely. So yeah, there's some interesting things here. That's just how I look at this stuff. Everyone can look at it however they want, if they want to research into it or not, but I just keep an open mind, and I've studied really deeply into both of them, and there just keeps being things that pop out to me. That's why I wanted to chat with you today. I'm glad you reached out again, because we've just seen now all these examples: the Mars-Pluto opposition, the Venus retrograde, the Pluto moving over these sensitive points in the charts. We have the double retrograde and all this stuff. It's just all lining up really nicely, which is interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what questions you got to. I know someone.
I just went through a few of them.
You should take crypto, astrology and crypto. Red Bull Vodka says, Stephen Burns, apart from the end of April, what is your most bullish moon? What is the most bullish moon in your opinion?
Like,
does it work like that?
Like
even?
which coin is going to go to the moon?
No,
I think
he's saying like what moon should they look out for? Is there a specific moon? What is your most bullish? Like if we were to keep track of a moon phase, maybe that's what he's doing.
That's right. Some people look really closely at the moon phases as it relates to crypto.
Is there some special
that's
moon?
A higher.
Yeah, you like?
Well, that's a higher frequency rhythm. I would say crypto is very much an Aquarian technology. It's decentralized. It's for the people. We hope, right? The higher expression of it is that. So we can look to where Pluto is in Aquarius, and maybe we have a moon that lines up with that. And so I'm looking here. It looks like we have a Leo. Exactly. Here we go. I knew we would have this just when that question was asked. I would have to look through all the ephemeris data to really give you a precise answer, but just based on intuition, July 25th, we have a new moon in Leo conjunct Pluto. And so Pluto is also representative of wealth and power too. That's the other thing I didn't mention. The original, like the Greek word for Pluto means like hidden wealth. And it's related to the word Pluton, which is like a deep rock body underground, which contains all these gems and minerals and stuff, right? Ore. So Pluto, in its root of its word, means wealth, and specifically like hidden wealth. Like there's a secret or a truth that most people don't know, but if you learn it, it's very empowering and beneficial for fortunate for you. And so we have the moon and the sun conjunct Pluto on February 25th. on July 25th, and that looks pretty nice.
So July 25th,
So,
it's what conjunct again? Say it one more time.
yeah, so it's the sun,
Sun.
and it's also the moon, so it's a new moon,
Okay.
and that's a new beginning. Conjunct Pluto, sorry, not conjunct Pluto, opposite Pluto. They will be in Leo, the sun and the moon, and Pluto will be opposite in Aquarius. But as we've seen with these Mars-Pluto oppositions, just because it's opposite doesn't mean it's detrimental, because the price of crypto has only gone up on those two oppositions that we've had thus far. It's more just like an energy kind of charging moment, because you build this polarity.
Yeah.
So that to answer that question quickly, I think that's an interesting date,
Okay.
July 25th.
Okay. Frank White says, thanks for coming on. What's up, Frank? You're blowing some people's minds for sure. Chat, you guys are amazing. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Mine and Stefan Burns. Amazing work. Man is also like non-stop. You do not take a break, man. You have been reporting non-stop. It's amazing.
My philosophy is if the iron's hot, then you got to hit it, right?
That's true.
And so
That's
I've just
true.
been catching trends pretty nicely recently. So I've been beating the drum, as I call it.
Yeah.
But did you want to look at anything for HEX and PulseChain? I know a lot of your community is centered around those projects. If you wanted to do a crypto astrology look there quickly, we could.
Yeah, I mean,
be happy to help.
I didn't want to, put you under the gun, but if you're up for it, I'll throw up a chart. We can look at it. Yeah. I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah, we can just run it through.
Okay.
I don't look at them that much, though I have more so because you're talking about them. So this is an opportunity for me to also look a little bit more at the Pulse ecosystem.
Okay. As long as chat smashes the like button and hits subscribe, we'll do it. We'll look at PulseChain. What do you guys think? You want to look at some PulseChain? Look at the PulseChain charts. This is huge. And a Capricorn, very enterprising. Allison said he started answering my question right when I asked it. Let's look at the PulseChain natal chart. Oh, talk about timing, Allison.
That's a good one.
All right,
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's do it.
You give me
How should we do it?
If you give me the date and time of the founding, I can create a chart for it, and we can start to just look at some things that may be hitting it soon.
Okay, Pups, you got.
Does it have like a first block time?
Pups, you got to help me out. Okay, anyone? Oh, we need devs. Who's the dev? We had Claudia in here. Is Fast Abdul out there? What is the first block for PulseChain? I think it came out March or May 23rd, 2022. You guys got to help me out. Let's give him a sec. There's a little bit of delay.
Okay. Yeah. And ideally, the location of where this is Richard Hart, who hit like start. So if we know his location too, then we could put in the city. Like I did that for Dogecoin. It was Portland, Oregon, right? We know that's where it was founded, and we had the first block time, so you can create a chart. For Bitcoin, people use London because he tweeted. He didn't tweet, but basically talked about the Financial Times, right, which is based in London. So you said May 23rd?
Let's get some confirmation for that. I thought it was May 23rd. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's make sure. Where are we at? Where's chat? They're probably checking right now. Usually get some dates in here.
Okay.
I'm going to send this out.
There's a blockchain explorer for PulseChain. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Go to Pulse. Oh, not that. Yeah, scan Pulse.
So then if we type in just 0000, we should be able to get the first block.
Yeah, if you go to scan.pulsechain. No, damn, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, Pulse scan. Here it is. I'm going to drop this in the chat. I wonder what I'll put this in the chat right there. There's a link for that. And then, May 13th, people are saying. Oh, but somebody else is saying May 22. Yeah, I thought it was closer to the end. Somebody now is saying May 12th. So, okay, let me shoot this out across the my groups here. Let's get some.
Question is how to get the first block, because sometimes it's difficult to pull up the early blocks with an Explorer. I did a lot of searching across all the different cryptos to see if any of them had points in Aquarius that Pluto is going to pass over. And actually, I really didn't find that many. A lot of them are created at times where they don't get things in there. So if PulseChain has that, that would be interesting. I didn't check PulseChain.
So Pups,
Here
we
we
don't
go.
seem
Here's
to have
blocks.
we don't seem to have congruence. Someone said May 13th. Somebody else said May 27th or May 12th. Do we have?
Okay, I'm seeing the first block here, and it says December 31st, 1969.
What?
Because the time of it, this is a Genesis block. So if you go to the next block,
Yeah.
it's July 30th, 2015.
Okay.
That's block 1. And then all of them
I'm gonna
are
write-
also 2015.
Wait, I'm gonna write this down. So block 1 was July. What'd you say? July.
Here, I can
July 15th.
I can drop you the link.
2015.
Yeah, I don't know why, but here, I'll give you this in the chat.
Okay.
There you go. It says 10 years ago, but zero transactions. Maybe this is testnet.
It's got to be testnet. Oh, yeah, it's testnet.
God, what's up with this? Oh, I think you know what they're doing? They're testing the fire alarm system, something like that.
Our fig.
Because now they're outside my room.
He's saying May 13th, so now we have a little bit of consensus. We had a couple people. Yeah, because I said May 23rd, so it probably was 13th. I probably just screwed up the 1 and the 2. So it's May 13th, 2023. That sounds right to me. Sounds about right.
If someone could find out the specific block that they took this live on mainnet, that would be great. Because then we get the time. Because then I
Okay.
get the certain angles and stuff too. But if I have just May 13th, 2023, I can work with that. And do we have an idea of where Richard Hart was at the time?
Was he in Finland? We don't know. Well,
Does he live there?
he was
He's
living
Finnish?
there. He was. We don't. Nobody knows where he is.
Let's just put it Finland in. Or I can default it to London. Yeah, I could do that too. I'll put to London for right now because it's like one of the financial centers of the world. And it seems, that's less important than the specific time. So but let's do this. Just having the date gives us a lot to work with.
Okay, some people are working on all this stuff right now. So let's go. Let's see
Cool.
what people come up with. And we don't know that for sure. He's still an American. Okay, no one knows exactly where he was because remember he was being sued by the SEC and all this other stuff. He kind of was
Floating around.
It's a bit of a clandestine operation.
Okay, so here I have a chart pulled up, and we see it actually was created with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is interesting. So it's also representative in many ways of we talked about the Apple Vision Pro being released right when Pluto moved in. PulseChain was also released at the same time.
Really?
And so that's kind of a good signal in terms of 20 years of runway for it, in terms of growth. And it has a lot of stuff in Pisces, Aries, and Taurus, which is the cycle that we're in right now. So, I typically would look at things passing over in terms of a longer time frame, like Pluto, for example, in terms of, because we have the clear example of Bitcoin and Dogecoin for that. But we do have, for example, we have Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries this year. And they will then also move through Taurus in the future. So Saturn will take 2.5 years to move through Aries, and then it'll be in Taurus in 2.5 years. So in 5 years, they'll pass over all those points.
Okay.
And then it actually hits the part of fortune in Gemini right at the end of that. So in about 5.5 years, Saturn's going to hit this point in the chart that's seen as super fortunate. And Saturn is a great manifester. It brings about hardship, but it's hardship that strengthens you and then leads to future success down the line. And so it on the part of fortune can manifest fortune in abundance in about 5.5 years.
Really?
Possibly. But before that, it's going to pass over the Jupiter in Aries at 29 degrees. It'll pass over the North Node of like fate and karma and like forward movement. It's going to pass over Mercury. It's going to pass over the midheaven, which is you're in the public eye. Everyone is seeing you. It's going to pass over Uranus. It's going to pass over the sun, and then it's going to hit that part of fortune. So that looks pretty nice, bro.
All right.
And then Neptune's going to take
good.
28 years to move across that entire sequence,
Okay.
which is interesting.
Okay.
And Jupiter actually eventually will do a lap around that as well. Now, Venus is in Cancer. Okay. We have Jupiter. Hey, here we go. This is good. We have Jupiter hitting the PulseCoin Venus this year.
Jupiter
specifically,
Jupiter will hit the PulseCoin Venus this year.
Yeah. So the
yeah.
greater benefic
Sounds like
and the
something I do
lesser
on the
benefic
weekends.
will come together.
Okay. Okay.
That's one of these let's go moments
Really?
right there.
All right.
Yeah, that's typically seen as very fortunate. So let me get the exact time for everybody.
Okay, we're gonna get the
that's
time on
at
this.
6 degrees of Cancer, and that's not something that's going to move significantly if I get the time, of May 13th. That's where it is. So
May 13th.
6 degrees of Cancer, yeah,
6
for
degrees of
2020.
Cancer.
Well, 2023, May 13th, the first block time, Venus is at that position. It's not going to change from that if it's 12 a.m. or 12 p.m.
Yo,
is what I was getting
Pulse
to.
DGen, you're nuts if you don't think RH uses astrology and numerology when he creates all this stuff, because he does. He does. And if the person who created this blockchain is obsessed with numerology and astrology, you better believe we can unwind answers by looking at it from that perspective, all right? You're in an ecosystem created by a man who uses numerology and astrology on a regular basis. All right, there's no doubt about it. Everything's it happens on certain dates, certain times, and with certain numbers in mind. All right, so you know what I'm saying.
So Richard Hart he's made that known before.
Oh, he's. I mean, you just know by like when he does things, and things are spaced out by like 666 days or 5/5, and the hex thing's already right there, geometric number 6.
Yeah.
And he does do things. It's a billionaire. Rich people don't use astrology, but it's billionaires. Billionaires do. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
He does. He has dates and times. They're not random. Okay. RH has talked about numbers on stream. There you go. I know he does, because the dates and everything are it's not coincidental. It's not just accidental. He's a very particular guy.
What I'll share quickly is that once I learned astrology, I definitely started looking through the lens of how do I release a project on a day that's fortuitous, and also how does it start a longer cycle that's fortuitous. And typically there'll be something on the horizon that you can work with.
Right, right.
And then you can also look at longer patterns, and if you have a longer time frame, you can work with that. But yeah, once you have a knowledge of it, it doesn't take that long to look through the ephemeris data or the charts, whatever you're looking at, and see a good time to launch a project or to start something or whatever. So if he knows this stuff, he's going to do that too. It only makes sense. The date specifically for Jupiter passing over the PulseChain Venus is July 8th of this year.
July 8th. So that could be a very powerful time for PulseChain.
Yeah. And so whether it's May
Interesting.
12th or May 13th, that transit's going to be the same, because Venus will only move maybe 1 degree a day. So it's not going to change much. So July 8th of 2025 is that pretty fortuitous moment for Jupiter and Venus. And that's the start of a cycle. Let's not forget that.
It's where Jupiter goes over Venus.
Yeah, the natal Venus, that's now an imaginary point in the sky that has this fixed charge energy to it. You have to start thinking of things a little bit more abstractly when we get into this, right? You have to have that part of the brain open and not just shut it down. But when Jupiter passes over that, the greater benefic meeting up with the lesser benefic, starts this new cycle of fortune, and it's also in the exaltation of Jupiter too. Like his domicile, his home temple, because Jupiter rules over Cancer. And so the other thing that I think is going to play out is, I think right now with Jupiter, we have, as I talked about, this information overload, which is very much this live stream right now. I'm sure some people watch this like, what the heck is going on?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But we have this information overload. But if you can handle it, it's a good thing. But I think people right now are very much basing their trades off of data. Because like we see the markets moving, like the bigger financial markets, also crypto. But it's like, hey, we got new inflation numbers, markets tank. Hey, we got new job report. Everyone's waiting for the latest set of numbers to come out.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on. Like, come on, folks. This isn't like what the market should be doing. But that's what's occurring right now because it's super information data driven. Perhaps because Jupiter's in Gemini, which is very resonant with that. But when Jupiter moves into Cancer, I think we're going to see a shift towards emotional trading, more so than data-driven trading.
Okay.
And Cancer rules over the home and family. And I think we're going to see people say, what do I need to do to really feel comfortable and secure in the world? And I think some of the lower expressions of that will be, I'm going to trade off my emotions even more so. But the higher expression may be some people taking a look and saying, hey, you know, I want some guarantees for my money. I don't want to inflate away. I'll buy some Bitcoin as a result. Things like that. And Cancer traditionally is also connected to power as well. It's a power dynamic. You end up, the lower expression is that you're a victim, and the higher expression is that you're an ultra powerful person for Cancer.
Okay.
And so Jupiter is, you know, Zeus in Greek mythology is the ruler of the heavens and the cosmos. He is the lord over Cancer. Venus will be there. She likes Cancer. They're going to get together in this sign of power. And I think people are going to start trading more based on their emotions when that happens for the next year. And that's all, as you just pulled up the solar chart again, that's all being pumped with some of this increased energy because of the sun. More and more just volatility and energy in the background. So people are going to be maybe a little bit more irrational too.
Would you say that perfectly described the last year with the meme coin run though, right? But you think it's going to keep amplifying?
Yeah, maybe the meme coin run was a little bit of a precursor to that.
So it's going to get even more.
Yeah, because these things always have like a precursor and then kind of a tail to them.
Okay.
But the big markets have been definitely moving on data recently, but less and less so. Now they're moving a little bit more on the news of tariffs and stuff, right? And there's uncertainty, but just like basically second half of 2024 is all about this new number came out. Now the markets can move to the next technical level and everything's good and gravy and, you know, it's all this bullshit. Because all the numbers are fake, but people were playing that game.
Yeah.
I think that's going to come to an end, or at least reduce a lot, starting in June, which is when it moves into Cancer. If I go back to the chart, because there's probably a lot more I could look at. The other thing too, this is a good sign, a little bit, actually around the same time, is that we have this double retrograde with Mercury and Venus through Aries and Pisces. Taurus is a sign that follows Aries. And so after this double retrograde, then you will have Venus and Mercury move into Taurus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Taurus is representative of finances and money and kind of pleasure and sensuality and just a good time, basically. It's a nice, harmonious sign. You know, Taurian women are always like the most attractive. They always look the best. And so we have, after this kind of difficult moment with Aries and Pisces in this retrograde, it then moves into Taurus, these two planets, and the sun, eventually. And I think that is also when the markets really start to turn around. So talking to your point about maybe us having a sustained pump through the summer.
Yeah.
Or even early summer, like not necessarily like blistering pump, but just nice sustained growth that leads up to something happening in the fall that really gets things going.
Yeah.
That I can see starting in April, and in May, because Taurus season
Nice.
starts basically April 21st, and then you have all those points get hit.
Dude, I'm with
right
you 100%
before that, you have
on
Jupiter.
that. I'm with you 100%. I've been talking about that that theory on my live streams nonstop, that we do a reverse and we start actually pumping through that April, May, and through the whole summer.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking too already.
Interesting. And it starts April 21st, you said, right? The energy, that thing.
Taurus season does. In general, April is a month of turnarounds and good energy. So, yeah, whether it's like April 10th or April 20th, I think, again, it's going to be kind of a slow start.
Okay.
But this, the other thing about like abysmal with this I-Ching reading, I think we should do that next if you have time.
Yeah,
but
we got to do it.
Because that would be fun. We can get some specific information for us and everyone in the live stream to take forward in terms of understanding the markets and where they're going.
This would be cool.
But with PulseChain, it has this Jupiter right there at the very end of Aries at 29 degrees, which is the greater benefic. So we talked about Venus being the lesser benefic, Jupiter moving over that. That's a long transit. But we have the short-term Venus over Jupiter also on April 20th or so. April 19th, April 20th. Or sorry, it might not be exactly then. That's when the sun will pass over its Jupiter. But if we look at the ephemeris data, Venus at 29 degrees of Aries is going to be June 6th. So right around that, like I'd say mid-April to May to June timeframe, I think things will start to grow. And I think that abysmal period, that I-Ching that I did, it's going to be an extended kind of washout period. You don't just like temporarily hit it. I think abysmal is people lose faith because you're there for a while.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of volatility. I think we may settle out somewhere that's really depressing for a lot of people, and then we go up from there. People will lose faith. They will capitulate. They think we're in the bear market, and boom, hey, we're not in the bear market, right? All of a sudden, be like, oh, of course we're not in the bear market.
Yeah.
But at the time, people will think we will.
Awesome.
That's my intuition. I don't know if I'll be right or wrong, but that's my intuition, and we see that play out time and time again in crypto. It does that all the time.
I like it, man. I've been sharing a similar sentiment where people will believe, okay, see you in 4 years, and they'll want to call it, but then we will start moving again at an odd time, and it'll continue going for a sustained period much longer. And those people will be forced, because they'll think it's just, oh, this is just a dead cat bounce, or like, cool, it's just a temporary reaction pump, and then we'll dump. But then it just keeps going up, 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 and they'll be forced to join back in at a higher level. And that's interesting that you said it'll just be slow, because that'll make people ignore it. They'll be like, nah, I'll see you in 4 years. But it'll just keep building, 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 building. And next thing you know, we'll be in the fall, and it looks like we're just going to keep going. And we go into 2026. And we can, reconnect and look at what that'll look like. And possibly we get even close to 2027. But the point is, it's just going to go a lot longer than people realize.
Yeah, and this cycle also was like moving early too. So it kind of jumped the gun. And I think as a result, there's going to need to be this longer period to come back to equilibrium. And so that's what's kind of throwing some people for a loop.
Okay.
But again, who knows? But that's what I'm going off of. That's personally what I'm going off of. And I'm happy I've listened to my intuition on this, and also that I-Ching so far. Because I could have totally ignored that I-Ching that I did, and I would be down like 50+% on that position that I bought, which was, it was a pretty nice position. It wasn't life-changing, but I'm glad I sold it, and now I bought back in at the absolute low with another signal that popped up for me. But if you want to do the I-Ching, what type of question do you want to ask about the market? What are you thinking? Like, just what's the market cycle going to do? Like, we should think of the question first.
Okay, let's think of the question. In the meantime, chat, throw out some questions, smash the like button, hit subscribe, St. Wolf Vision, Stefan Burns. Do that right now. And we're going to put our heads together and think of a good question before we put out the I-Ching here, okay? Let me see. Oh, people are asking.
The question I just...
Oh,
yeah, the PDI chart.
Have you heard of PDI? Did we talk about that last time you were on?
No, but I've seen you post about it, and I know the kind of thesis of it. Someone just created it, and will it reach $1?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Any insights?
You're up quite a lot on that, aren't you?
I might be a little bit up on it. Yeah. Yeah. I bought it a long time ago.
A little bit.
I bought it a long time
I think
ago.
it's done like a 10x, hasn't it?
At least, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how it's done with the recent downtrend, but when I was looking at it like a month ago, it was like at least a 10x, and I was like, all right, pretty good.
Yeah, but in all fairness, I guess I was talking about, I've been talking about PDAF for a very long time, but I was making my videos always at the bottoms. So everyone had great opportunities to get in there with me. But people are asking about that. There's actually already been a couple of people. Do you have any, is there a correlation between astronomy, testosterone, and crypto? Do you see any,
Well, we have the same haircut now. So, I think there's something to it.
Yeah, we got similar vibe. I like your new style. I like it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it works well.
Should we just ask him about PDI? Oh my damn. Should we do that? Okay, I'm gonna go with that.
Give me a day I can quickly look at it.
How do I frame the question for you? Is there some rules to this? How I ask it? What the question I want to ask is?
No. We can do a couple of I-Chings.
Okay. You can tell me
But
how to break
I definitely
it up.
want to ask one about the larger market structure.
Okay.
Like, I think we should definitely do one that's not super focused. One that's like, tell us about this overall bull market cycle that we're in. That's like the question I have in my mind. But we could do one for PDI, or I could look at the PDI chart if you want.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Dude, it's awesome. Of course, Pulse, Hex, of course, everything. Now, last time I was with Steven, we did Hex and we did Pulse. And so this time, because I have a number of people mentioning PDI, and I didn't even think of asking about it, but now that so many of you are asking about PDI in the chat, let's do it. So will PDI peg to $1, and when will it peg to $1?
Okay. Will PDI peg to... And again, I'm just going to flip the coins. We're just going to ask the question, flip the coins, and I'm just a messenger.
Okay.
So I hope it doesn't hurt people's feelings if it does.
We're not going to get hurt. We're all Chads. This is a VIP channel. There's no crybabies in here. And really, when is it going to peg to PDI?
That will be a little bit harder because it'll probably give us a little bit of a cryptic message there, like the I-Ching I described. But there'll be clear signals. If you know how to read it, you'll be like, okay, I can see how that's the same time period. So we'll do our best. But I've wrote down, will PDI peg to what? When will PDI peg to $1 and perhaps when? That's the question I have. So let me throw the coins.
Okay, look.
Will PDI
smash the like button.
Peg to $1.
If you don't want to hear this,
and perhaps win.
Click off the channel. If you're not ready for this, click off the channel.
It could be great. We have a yang line.
We need to get some jeeters. These guys can't handle it.
Yeah, we get 6 lines. The first one's a yang line.
Fast Abdul, you can be the first one to jeet the stream, please.
And see, how many people have asked this question? Like, asked it, but then did some sort of method that actually results in an answer.
Okay.
Right? I think that's the key with this universe supercomputer.
Richard Hart is watching the stream right now.
You better be. All right, we have a yin line. So we have yang, yang, yin.
Okay, we have yang, yin.
Yeah. And now we have another yin line, but this is a changing line. So it will change to a yang line. So now we have 2 answers that we will get. We have a yin line. And the last one, will PDI peg to $1 and perhaps win? And we have a yang line. Okay, let me find the right I-Ching here. There's 64 of them, so it can take a little bit of time to find it. And then, before I do that, and then this one will move into, I have to create the other one that's going to turn into. All right. See, the fun thing about live streams is that they're just fun to do, If you can get a following, you can just kind of basically hang out, have fun. That one's close to it. It's not the right one, though. This, okay, well, oh, okay, this is interesting. I have the second answer here. We'll go back to that. And the first answer
Look, pups,
is...
plebs like me, we use TA, all right? But billionaires, they use numerology and astrology, all right? So there's something to this.
Oh, man.
We're going to get some insights.
This one's interesting.
And what's interesting, too, is so many things we've talked about in the past with Stefan have lined up with my TA. Ah, Deerslayer is here. We can get started. Good to have you.
Okay. Okay, so I have the first and the second I-Ching. The first is the one that we cast.
Okay, okay.
And then the second one is what it'll turn into. And so we have lake at the bottom. That's the bottom trigram, as they're called.
Okay.
And mountain is the top. If you want, I can share my screen to show this, perhaps.
Oh, you can share it?
I'm not sure that's
yeah,
possible.
100% you can. You want to do it?
Let's see if
It's up
that
to you.
works. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's sharing now.
Okay.
No.
No.
But I think you may have to enable it.
Yeah, hang on one second. I have to create another... I think I click on this button here. And click this button. I think I just plug it in like a guest 2.
Because there's a whole bunch of text associated with these. So
Yeah, let's do it. Let's look at it.
this way people can read them on their own as well.
Yeah, we're going to do it. I think now I do this. Do this. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's flipped. What's wrong? Why is it flipped? Okay, I can fix that. Hang on.
All right, everybody.
There's a button for that. Take it
I
easy.
hope you're good at reading this.
I got a button. There we go. All right.
Cool. I'll be right back.
Okay. Pups, don't ask, because I've never seen anything like this before. I don't know anything about this stuff. You guys just start asking me what it means.
Okay. All right, just needed some water. Okay. This is
Hey, Moon Mouse.
hexagram number 41.
Moon Mouse 88, how are you? No, you're here now. You actually just got here just in time. We asked a serious, we asked about PDI. All right, so if you're not brave enough, you're not ready to hear it, you can go off the stream because he's about to answer it.
Now this is interesting because it's the mountain over the lake. And so this is like, one of the things with the Chinese I-Ching is they look at things that are in alignment with nature as they are.
Okay.
And so a lake being at the bottom of a mountain, like at the base of a mountain, is something that we see reflected in nature a lot.
Okay.
And so this is the hexagram of the sun, and it's labeled decrease. So the sun typically is seen as a very fortuitous thing, and it's also connected with decrease. Okay. So it says the judgment, decrease combined with sincerity brings about supreme good fortune without blame. One may be persevering in this. It furthers one to undertake something. How is this to be carried out? One may use 2 small bowls for the sacrifice.
Oh boy.
And there's someone who also adds interpretation of this at the end.
Okay.
A famous Chinese Western guy. Okay. So the image, at the foot of the mountain, the lake, the image of decrease. Thus the superior man controls his anger and restrains his instincts. So this is interesting. Now if we go to the 4th line, that's the line that we had marked. This is the one that's relevant to us that changes the hexagram to the future outcome that will result of this. The 4th line is, if a man decreases his faults, it makes the other hasten to come and rejoice. No blame. If we go down to the comments, this hexagram represents a decrease in the lower trigram in favor of the upper, because the 3rd line, originally strong, has moved up to the top, and the top line, originally weak, has replaced it. What is below is decreased to the benefit of what is above. This is an out and out decrease. If the foundations of a building are decreased in strength and the upper walls are strengthened, the whole structure loses its stability. Likewise, a decrease in the prosperity of the people in favor of the government is an out and out decrease. And the entire theme of the hexagram is directed to showing how this shift of wealth can take place without causing the sources of wealth. Looks like this guy miswrote something. And the entire theme of the hexagram is directed to showing how this shift of wealth can take place without causing the sources of wealth in the nation and its lower classes to fail. Very interesting. It seems very resonant with the world at large, I would say, about the growing financial disparity and inequality.
Interesting.
Decrease, the judgment. Decrease does not, under all circumstances, mean something bad. Increase and decrease come in their own time. What matters here is to understand the time and not to try to cover up poverty with empty pretense. If a time of scanty resources brings out an inner truth, one must not feel ashamed of simplicity. For simplicity is then the very thing needed to provide inner strength for further undertakings. Indeed, there need be no concern at the outward beauty of the civilization. Even the elaboration of religious forms should have to suffer because of simplicity. One must draw on the strength of the inner attitude to compensate for what is lacking in externals. Then the power of the content makes up for the simplicity of form. There is no need of presenting false appearances to God. Even with slender means, the sentiment of the heart can be expressed. And then the image, the lake at the foot of the mountain evaporates. In this way, it decreases to the benefit of the mountain, which is enriched by its moisture. The mountain stands as a symbol of stubborn strength that can harden into anger. The lake is a symbol of unchecked gaiety that can develop into passionate drives at the expense of the life forces. Therefore, decrease is necessary. Anger must be decreased by keeping still. The instincts must be curbed by restriction. By this decrease of the lower powers of the psyche, the higher aspects of the soul are enriched. And then the fourth line from the bottom, a man's faults often prevent even well-disposed people from coming closer to him. His faults are sometimes reinforced by the environment in which he lives. But if in humility he can bring himself to the point of giving them up, he frees his well-disposed friends from an inner presence and causes them to approach them more quickly, and there is more mutual joy. So I'm not sure what your thoughts on that are, but
I'm taking it all in. This is brand new to me. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this with the I-Ching. It's very beautiful, very poetic. I'm trying to understand. To me, it almost sounds like there's just still uncertainty for the time. Did you specifically ask, is it going to peg, or did you ask for a kind of time for a pegging?
I said, will PEI peg to $1 and perhaps win? Okay. And so there's just a couple things that are jumping out to me, and they're kind of contradictory in some sense. So just
bullish.
Again, these are just my interpretations, so who knows? But the first thing that came up to me was the inequality of this. It's talking about how we're taking strength from the bottom and moving it to the top. And I don't really know PEI that well, okay? Right. I just know that there's a community movement behind it, and there's a faith and a hope that it pegs to $1, which is, it's an interesting idea. But if it becomes a vehicle for, let's say, whales to just extract money from people, that's very much reminiscent of taking strength from the bottom, these people that are buying into some faith and idea, and just moving it into the pockets of people who are already enriched.
Which is kind of a general theme in crypto in general, right? Whales tend to do this in a lot of things.
So here's where the second one comes in, where it's a little kind of contradictory to that, but also I think they can both make sense, which is saying that decrease combined with sincerity brings about supreme good fortune. One may be persevering in this if furthers one to undertake something. So I think what this is kind of saying is that, and it also talks about controlling your anger, restraining your instincts. So it's kind of saying that if you don't put in more than you can afford to lose effectively, right? It says, we talked about how you have to kind of slim up and maybe there's hard times. You still do the rituals and everything, but they're less splendorous. But if you are able to maintain faith and you are able to restrain your emotions and your animal instincts, and you have good intentions and patience, and you're willing to go through a period of decrease, then it says supreme good fortune. That's what basically is saying. So perhaps there is this movement of money to the top, right? But then eventually, if there, let's say, just hypothetically, there is increasing interest in PDI and increasing volume, then it would behoove the market makers to let it run up eventually, right? They build up a big position, they make their money, build up their position, let it run. I can see that occurring. And those kind of work together. But let's go to the next one that it turns into, which is opposition. It's right here.
All right, pups, this is Stefan Burns. He's on YouTube. Go follow his channel, subscribe to this channel, and smash the like button. This is very, very cool stuff.
Smash it.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that him and I have talked about on the stream and at other times that have lined up incredibly well with the charts. So there's something interesting to all this stuff. There is something.
Here, this is interesting. I mean, now for this one, this is opposition. Flame over the lake. Okay? And because it turned into opposition, or this hexagram, we don't get any changing lines. So it's pretty simple. And this one actually has a very simple message. First off, flame over the lake. And I've pulled this one before, so I've read it, so I can speak a little bit on it.
Right.
Fire and water don't really go well together. If you were to have, let's say, the flame under the lake, that's not really a good thing because the flame will get extinguished. But as it is, you have a flame hovering above a lake, and so it's able to burn and stay alive, but if there's any sort of disruption to that, it could fall into the lake and get extinguished. So it's kind of a precarious balance is the point of me saying that. So here's the judgment. Opposition in small matters, good fortune. And then the image is fire above, the lake below, the image of opposition. Thus amid all fellowship, the superior man retains his individuality. And the first thing I thought of with this is that, okay, let's say we do have whales skimming off the top of PDI because they kind of build a little bit of a machine there, you can say. But then eventually it behooves them to let it run, and it does start to move towards $1, let's say. Well, at that point, it would behoove you to retain some of this individuality and to exert a bit of your own opposition to the collective trend and then to sell some. Because that is what brings about good fortune. It says that opposition in small matters brings about good fortune. And even though you have this fellowship, you still retain your individuality. Because eventually that flame may sink into the lake. It's not going to last forever. So that's what popped into my mind when I read that. We could go down and read these right here.
Really interesting, man.
Again, the flame likes to go up, the lake likes to go down. The two are in indirect contrast. And if we go down to the judgment, when people live in opposition and estrangement, they cannot carry out a great undertaking in common. Their points of view diverge too wildly. In such circumstances, one should, above all, not proceed requestfully, for that would only increase the existing opposition. Instead, one should limit oneself to producing gradual effects in small matters. Here, success can still be expected because the situation is such that the opposition does not preclude all agreement. In general, opposition appears as an obstruction, but when it represents polarity within a comprehensive whole, it also has its useful and important functions. The oppositions of heaven and earth, spirit and nature, man and woman, when reconciled, bring about the creation and reproduction of life. In the world of visible things, the principle of opposites makes possible the differentiation by categories through which order is brought into the world. And so my personal experience with astrological oppositions is that they can actually be super fortuitous because you have this energy charge. And if you know how to bring the two together, you can make some amazing things happen. And I've used that to my benefit before. And so this opposition, for example, could be that P die is doing really well, and you're going to have to take a little bit of an oppositional stance, and perhaps that's a good time to sell some. Even though the community is really go, 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 a lot of people are pouring in, let's say as a hypothetical, but you need that polarity to then get that financial value extracted out of it. So we can read the last one too. The image, the two elements, fire and water, never mingle, but even when in contact retain their own natures. So the Saturn man is never led into baseness or vulgarity through intercourse or community of interest with persons of another sort. Regardless of all commingling, he will always preserve his individuality. So that's what it gives. And so the first question was, will P die peg to $1 and perhaps when was the second? And we got two I-Chings. So first it's decrease, which is also the sun, which is interesting, right? SON. So it's kind of a contradiction there in some aspects. But then it goes to opposition. So perhaps we can look to periods of opposition as to when this pegging could occur, if it does. If the P die is going to peg to $1, it's going to occur during a period of opposition. Whether that's maybe societally, right, like on a big scale, or maybe opposition between Richard Hart and someone, or the community and something, or even maybe there's an astrological transit that's a big opposition that occurs astrologically. I'm not sure exactly what that would be off the top of my head, but just all things to play with. That's the info for people to jot down if they want to explore into that more.
Yeah, we've talked before. Yo, Wild Ass Shay, how's it going? That it would probably happen at like a very down time. Like a bad time when prices were just destroyed, because it would make sense for the peg. But I mean, I don't know. There's so much speculation either way and all that stuff. But that lines up. That theory would line up with what you're saying.
The first one was decrease, so that would very much, if we just look at broad strokes, that would be a bear market. Because there's an I-Ching, a hexagram for increase as well.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That would be a bull market.
Okay.
So perhaps during a bear market, it starts to peg, and the community is like loving that because they're avoiding the bear market. Mm-hmm. But eventually, let's say that turns around, you would have been well served to have retained your individuality. But it's only going to happen if the community works together. We know that regardless of anything we just talked about. You're not going to get pegged to $1 unless there's a strong community effort to get it there.
Really? Okay.
As with any project, you need strong community. Part of my heart likes Litecoin, for example, because it has all these great fundamentals, and Mimblewimble is really cool. It actually makes it fungible and stuff, but there's just not enough community with Litecoin, and so there's just not enough people buying and holding it. So, it's still top 20, but it hasn't done what some of the big guys have done, just because it doesn't have a big enough community around it. So what questions should we ask for the bull market, the overall cycle?
Good question. Chat, what would we ask for the bull market, the overall cycle? You want to ask one about the overall cycle? The bull market.
Like, how will this overall bull market play out is kind of the idea I have in my head.
Yeah, can we ask that?
Or we could ask...
Is that too broad, or is that we can ask that?
It might be too broad.
Okay.
Maybe better to be asked, like, give us a signal for when the bull market, like the best time to sell in this bull market. That could be another one.
You want to ask that? That could be a good one. Hang on, I'll be right back.
That's a little bit more focused.
I got to turn the heat on because the temperature is dropping. Pups, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Also, Stephen Burns doing amazing work. But yeah, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Give me 1 sec.
All right. I think even just a signal of when will this bull market top.
Okay.
It's simple, but it's to the point, and it'll give us a clear archetypal picture, which then over the next weeks and months, we can start to try to figure out when that is based off of a whole bunch of things. When will the should we say bull market or like, I guess, market cycle? When will the markets top? I guess it could be do we want to do crypto markets? Bitcoin? You want to stick to Bitcoin?
When will the cryptocurrency markets reach their highest evaluation or top, if that's enough?
Yeah, that's it. When will the total crypto market, because there is that crypto, you go watch the overall market cap of all crypto. When will the total crypto market reach its highest valuation for this cycle? Because if we leave it open-ended, it may be 20 years from now.
For this cycle.
Yeah, for this cycle. That's what we're interested in. Okay, when will the total crypto market reach its highest valuation for this cycle? And if there's an altcoin pump that pumps it beyond, and Bitcoin maybe falls down a little bit, like what occurred in 2017, it's usually like within a month of each other. So in general, that should give us a good sense of the overall market moving, which I think is more important than just Bitcoin, more important than any just single altcoin. When will the total crypto market reach its high valuation for this cycle? All right, got a yang line.
Got a yang line, pups.
Got a yang line.
Another yang line.
This is good. We got another yang line.
Another yang line.
That's a changing one. And so that makes heaven on the bottom. So that's already, ooh, that's good.
That's good. See? That's what happens when you smash the like button. We got to get the vibes up. Keep the vibes high.
Now we have a
Fuck.
we have a yin line. And now we have a changing yin line. And one more to go. When will the total crypto market reach its high valuation for this cycle? We have another changing yin line. Okay. And so that's water on top. This is the opposite of the I-Ching that I did for myself back in January.
Okay.
Where it was heaven over water. This one's water over heaven.
Okay.
Which is basically where we are right now, right? There's underlying hope and optimism, but the forces of water are just pushing everything down. People are losing hope. So that's already interesting. But it changes. This one, we have 3 changing lines, which is pretty significant. So this one changes into 2 yang up top and then a yin below. And then we have a, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, it's interesting. Very interesting. Let me find these 2 I-Chings for us. It's not standstill. That is heaven over. Oh, that's earth. Sorry, not water. This is earth on the top. So it's earth over heaven. Okay. It's the opposite. It's peace. Right now we are in peace. Number 11. Earth over heaven. We'll come back to this. And then it switches to 2 yang with 2 yin in the middle and 2 yang on the bottom. So when there is peace, that's the first signal that we got. Because we asked, when will the total crypto market reach its high valuation for the cycle? And we got the answer of peace. So when there is peace, maybe in Ukraine.
Oh, somebody mentioned earlier in the stream that something about the deal with Ukraine might be wrapping up. I didn't catch it. We kind of flew. We were talking about something else. I kind of missed it there. But that makes a lot of sense. Oh, it's going to top when it peaks? When we have peace, that would be the top?
Maybe.
It could be.
Here's the other one. The other one is truth, which is very interesting. This is wood over lake. Or wind. Wind or wood over lake.
Nancy Pelosi's watching the stream. What?
Yeah. I think she needs help walking. She's probably more focused on that right now. Okay. Now we have 3 changing lines. We have the 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th.
Okay.
So we can get context clues from all 3 of those, and that's what then gives us truth. So those are almost like conditions that if those hit, then we get the truth. And I think truth could be speaking a little bit to like what is the reality of the situation. You hit perhaps this overvaluation, and then people start to recognize, yo, we're a little too high up here. It makes sense to sell it. That's just one interpretation that kind of comes to mind. The judgment. Peace. The small departs, the great approaches, good fortune and success. Heaven and earth unite, the image of peace. Thus the ruler divides and completes the course of heaven and earth. He furthers and regulates the gifts of heaven and earth, and so aids the people. Okay, it's all pretty fortuitous sounding to me. Now we have line number 3. And often these are kind of cryptic, so it's better to read the interpretation by Richard Wilhelm, which is down below. But no plane not followed by a slope. No going forward not followed by return. He who remains persevering in danger is without blame. Do not complain about this truth. Enjoy the good fortune you still possess. So that's basically saying that there's going to be kind of what I'm seeing pretty quickly, that is like there's going to be volatility with that. And you should be cognizant of that danger. If you do that, then you won't be without blame. Like there's nothing to blame because your eye is on the prize. And that's just the truth of it, right? Don't complain about this truth. There's no going without a return, right? Just like we saw this Trump pump. We didn't hit that. We didn't go back to nearly 100K. We dropped right back down to the 80s. Then we have the 5th line, the sovereign I, or first, gives his daughter in marriage. This brings blessing and supreme good fortune. Okay. Or something. The water falls back into the moat. Use no army now. Make your commands known within your own town. Perseverance brings humiliation. Again, like what goes up has to come down. It's kind of what I'm reading there.
Okay.
The receptive, which moves downwards, stands above the creative, which moves upwards, which is below. Hence, their influences meet and are in harmony, so that there is heaven on earth, so that all living things bloom and prosper. So this is already very fortuitous. It's basically saying that we're going to have a very nice bull market cycle, right? That's kind of what this is saying, I think. The hexagram belongs to the first month, February and March, at which time the forces of nature prepare a new spring. That's when we started having these drawdowns, which is interesting. The hexagram denotes a time in nature when heaven seems to be on earth. Heaven has placed itself beneath the earth, and so their powers unite in deep harmony. Then peace and blessing descend upon all living things. In the world of man, it is a time of social harmony. Those in high places show favor to the lowly, and the lowly and inferior is an end to all feuds. Inside, at the center, in the key position, is the light principle. The dark principle is outside. Thus, the light has a powerful influence while the dark is submissive. In this way, each receives its due. When the good elements of society occupy a central position are in control, the evil elements come under their influence and change for the better. When the spirit of heaven rules in man, his animal nature also comes under his influence and takes its appropriate place. The individual lines enter the hexagram from below and leave it again at the top. Here, the small, weak, and evil elements are about to take their departure, while the great, strong, and good elements are moving up. This brings good fortune and success. Heaven and earth are in contact and combine their influences, producing a time of universal flowering and prosperity. This stream of energy must be regulated by the ruler of men. It is done by a process of division. Thus men divide the uniform flow of time into the seasons according to the succession of natural phenomena, and mark off infinite space by the points of the compass. In this way, nature, in its overwhelming profusion of phenomena, is bounded and controlled. On the other hand, nature must be furthered in her productiveness. This is done by adjusting the products to the right time and the right place, which increases the natural yield. This controlling and furthering activity of man in his relation to nature is the work on nature that rewards him. So it all sounds very prosperous.
Well, when you mentioned earlier the spring, would that mean it could be happening now, or that could be next year? Either way, I mean, it could be now, right?
I mean, we could have a left translated cycle. Maybe we do get something really happening in April and May that kind of shakes us and it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It could also be speaking to just kind of the archetype of spring, and how spring's this time of growth. And we do have spring coming up, March 21st. April, May is all spring. Even most of June is spring, and that's when we were talking about us thinking things are turning around. So this lines up with that. If we just look at it from that perspective, which is pretty simple. The third line, everything on earth is subject to change. Prosperity is followed by decline. This is the eternal law on earth. Evil can indeed be held in check, but not permanently abolished. It always returns. This conviction might induct melancholy, but it should not. It ought only to keep us from falling into illusion when good fortune comes to us. I think that's important. If we continue mindful of the danger, we remain persevering and make no mistakes. As long as man's inner nature remains strong and richer than anything offered by external fortune, as long as he remains inwardly superior to fate, fortune will not desert him. Okay, the sovereign first is Tang the completer. By his decree, the imperial princesses, although higher in rank than their husbands, had to obey them like all other wives. Here too we are shown a truly modest union of high and low that brings happiness and blessings. Okay. The change alluded to in the middle of the hexagram has begun to take place. The wall of the town sinks back into the moat from which it was dug. The hour of doom is at hand. When matters have come to pass, we should submit to fate and not try to stave it off with violent resistance. The one recourse left to us is to hold to our own within our intimate circle. Should we persevere in trying to resist the evil in the usual way, our collapse would only be more complete and humiliation will be the result. And so we have to remember that this translates into then truth, number 61. And so it's talking about this time of peace and prosperity and, the different elements meeting together in union. But then it's also speaking to how the natural cycle is going to play out. You can't abolish evil. There will be a top and a drawdown. And at that point, we should really be mindful of what is actually at play, not get lost in the fantasy and see the truth of the situation. If we use Ukraine as an example, if there's peace in Ukraine, it's not going to last forever because we know Russia wants the entire country. They want to go all the way to the Carpathians. It's better for the defense. And so we could get a ceasefire, for example. I mean, I was there before and during the war.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in Ukraine.
Okay.
They're going to want to go all the way to the Carpathians. And so, and they don't have nukes, right? The Ukrainians don't have nukes, and they're not part of NATO. Any sort of ceasefire they do at this point is just maybe lasts for 5 years, maybe lasts for 10. It's not going to last for 50, though.
Are you Ukrainian?
Truth. I'm half Polish, but I've just spent a lot of time there. Just I don't know, about total 3.5 months or so of my life. You know.
Wow, you went there.
Like years,
you went there
but
during the war?
yeah, 2023 in the summer.
Wow, how was that?
Which is interesting. It was great. It was great, but it was pretty wild hearing all the alarms. And actually, when I was in Kyiv and in Lviv,
Okay.
I didn't have a single strike occur. I was in Lviv for a week, nothing occurred, just alarms.
Yeah.
But the day after I left, they had a big strike, which is weird. And then I was in Kyiv for 2.5 weeks, and I was also there during their Independence Day. And the day or two after I left is when they finally got through the defenses, and there was a whole bunch of strikes around the city.
Ooh.
So I would just coincidentally, or whatever you want to call it, I was protected when I was there.
Nice, nice.
And the only explosion that I heard was actually when I was in the mountains, the Carpathians. And there was this rogue, they had a whole bunch of strikes across Western Ukraine that day, and someone dropped a bomb just in the forest, in the mountains. And we saw, first off, this crazy loud explosion. You see the smoke go up and you get freaked out. That's the only time that there was actually an explosion that I heard when I was there.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because I didn't go to Eastern Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah, I still got a lot of friends I
not-
talk to on a regular basis who live in Kyiv. I have a friend who might come on the
Okay.
show and tell us about what's going on. I've known him since 2019. He's still in Kyiv, so.
Yeah, you're close to that part of the world.
Yeah, not too far at all. About a 6 or 8 hour bus ride or something from there.
Yeah. Yeah, take the bus in. It's pretty wild. They're looking at my passport what's this American guy want to do in here?
You did the bus from Poland, right? From Warsaw or from
Yeah.
Krakow? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think I go from here to Warsaw and then, there now.
Yeah, it takes some time, but I'm glad I went, again, after having been there pre-war.
Yeah.
So anyways, the judgment, inner truth, pigs and fishes, good fortune. It furthers one to cross the great water, perseverance furthers. Wind over lake, the image of inner truth, thus the superior man discusses criminal cases in order to delay executions. And we don't have any lines marked for this one, because this is the result. The result of this is that we get the truth
Okay.
of something. The wind blows over the lake and stirs the surface of the water, thus visible effects of the invisible manifest themselves. The hexagram consists of firm lines above and below, while it is open in the center. This indicates a heart free of prejudices and therefore open to truth. On the other hand, each of the two trigrams has a firm line in the middle. This indicates the force of inner truth in the influences they present. The attributes of the two trigrams are above, gentleness, forbearance towards inferiors, and then below you have joyousness and obeying superiors. Such conditions create the basis of mutual confidence that makes achievements possible. The character of truth is actually a picture of a bird's foot over a fledgling. Suggests the idea of brooding. An egg is hollow. The light-giving power must work to quicken it from outside, but there must be a germ of life within if life is to be awakened. Far-reaching speculations can be linked with these ideas. Pigs and fishes are the least intelligent of all animals and therefore the most difficult to influence. The force of inner truth must grow great indeed before its influence can extend to such creatures. In dealing with persons as intractable and as difficult to influence as a pig or a fish, the whole secret of success depends on finding the right way of approach. One must first rid oneself of all prejudice and, so to speak, let the psyche of the other person act on one without restraint. Then one must establish contact with him, understand and gain power over him. When a door has thus been opened, the force of one's personality will influence him. If in this way one finds no obstacles insurmountable, one can undertake even the most dangerous things, such as crossing the great water or the ocean, and succeed. But it is important to understand upon what the force inner truth depends. The force is not identical with simple intimacy or a secret bond. Close ties may exist also among thieves. It is true that such a bond acts as a force, but since it is not invincible, it does not bring good fortune. All association on the basis of common interest holds up only to a certain point. Where the community of interest ceases, the holding together ceases also, and the closest friendships also change, sometimes into hate. Only when the bond is based on what is right, on steadfastness, will it remain so firm that it triumphs over everything. So that's kind of, to me, bringing up this image of, you know, when there's a bull market, everyone's best friends, but if things start to turn, then all of a sudden the community interest kind of shrivels up and goes away.
Yeah.
And now we don't have that coherent movement pushing things forward, causing the price to go up.
Oh yeah.
And so seeing the pigs and fishes of the populace, who they are, and are they, you know, the most difficult to influence. Now, thing for you to look up really quickly is look up what the next Chinese zodiac year is, because right now it's the year of the snake, but does it follow? Is the pig next year? That would be interesting to see what the next zodiac year is.
It's the year of the horse is next year.
Okay, you're the horse.
Yeah.
That would be, if it was the pig, that would be like perfect lineup. That's just why I thought of that.
I am a snake, so this is supposed to be my year.
You got it.
Oh shoot! I just docked myself. So that means the bull run is going to go on for till the next pig year.
Is there a pig year? I think there is a pig in
is.
Chinese mythology. Wind stirs water by penetrating it. Thus, a superior man, when obliged to judge the mistakes of men, tries to penetrate their minds with understanding in order to gain a sympathetic appreciation of the circumstances. In ancient China, the entire administration of justice was guided by this principle. A deep understanding that knows how to pardon was considered the highest form of justice. This system was not without success, for its aim was to make so strong a moral impression that there was no reason to fear abuse of such mildness, for it sprang not from weakness but from superior clarity.
So it seems
I'm exactly
like
sure what to think of that.
we've got that. We got some clues in there. Definitely looks like the top, based on this, could be in the spring. It could be February or March, which we're in now. So, but then we heard some discussions about pigs and fishes. Kind of interesting. The next pig year is 2031, I believe. So that's a long way off.
Oh, well. I don't think it's for that.
Okay. So, but it's very beautiful. It's very poetic. Either way.
Yeah, number 11 is peace and then truth. So, I mean, the question was, when will the total cryptocurrency market reach its highest valuation for this cycle? And so it first gave us peace. So I think that is when we see some sort of peace, whether it's temporary or not, be proclaimed as an announcement. Perhaps that is a good top signal.
Wow. So that could be. It could be now, and then we have to deal with. Oof, that's interesting. Oh,
and then there's truth. And then there's truth.
Okay. I had somebody tell me who did tell me, and now you guys have heard this. We're in my live streams that I had a TA mentor back in 2023. Who helped me. He was like, I seeked this person out. They're very talented, but they're unbearably an asshole. But they're extraordinarily very, very amazing at TA. So I learned a lot from this person, and I was willing to put up with them for this. because they had a really amazing way they looked at charts. And they were obsessed with the World Economic Forum and what's going on in the world and conspiracy stuff too. But they were just a whiz on charts, right? And they said something about that this cycle, they were going to crush Ethereum and they were going to crush all the alts. And so far that has come true. And then this person told me that they would pump Bitcoin, but he didn't think it would go this high. He had lower targets, and then they would end the cycle abruptly. This is what he told me. And then, but the next cycle would start very quickly, and catching everybody off guard, and it would go very fast. Like not the cycle would end quickly, but the move up would happen very quick. And he was giving dates like 2026, 2027 for this big move. And alts were going to go nuts. I mean, he's like, they're going to crush it this cycle, but the next one, it's going to be absolutely insane. It's just interesting. Just put it out there. And he's not right about anything, like everything, like, of course. But it was interesting how he told me in 2023, he's like, they're going to crush Ethereum and they're going to crush alts. And that's what a couple times he was very clear about that to me. And I was like, okay. But I was moving over to PulseChain. I didn't know how affected we'd be, or, we still have to go in. Nobody knows everything, but it was interesting watching how they have crushed Ethereum in a lot of ways. But his theory about the cycle was really fascinating. He's like, they're going to start up again in 2026, 2027, and it's going to rip like unbelievable. Like his price target for like XRP was crazy high, like stuff for everything. But yeah. Maybe it's something interesting that possibly lines up with what you just read.
Yeah, when I read the I-Ching, when it says this trigram or hexagram is connected to these months, there's 64 trigrams, and so that's not the biggest data point for me. So I wouldn't necessarily put too much weight into that. Okay. But we got peace and truth. So something about there being some sort of peace that comes to bear fruit. But then a recognition, again, we got that line saying, hey, nothing lasts forever. And then it leads to truth. All those lines change into truth. So I think there's going to be, if we do get some sort of peace on the global stage, that could, again, markets like stability, right? They don't like war or depressions or things like that. So if we get some sort of peace, that could send markets around that time period to a really nice valuation. But then the superior man, as the I-Ching says, quote unquote, will see the truth in that, and that this peace is only ever going to be temporary, and that this won't last forever because there is some other conflict perhaps on the horizon or under the surface that's about to start.
We lost your reading screen. You pulled that on purpose? Just now.
Yeah, we were done with it.
Okay, gotcha.
We pull back up if needed, but
no,
it's number 11 and number 61 for anyone that wants to look into it more. But right now we see that there's kind of a peace deal in Gaza, and the big one right now is talking about Ukraine.
Yeah. Somebody was mentioning that they might have come to an agreement, and then somebody else had put on here that T.S. Pedro said Trump may roll back tariffs on Canada and Mexico tomorrow. For real? So it was all just, he's going to roll them back already? Okay. I don't know where you heard that.
It's all bargaining.
It's all bargaining. Yeah, negotiating.
Chips, or you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. So,
the volatility in the past, 10 days has been insane. Just looking at the past, going from February, let's say 22nd, just on Bitcoin, but you can look at all of them. Just crazy volatility.
We can come over here and look at the, where are we at? Oops.
Everyone watching this has been watching the charts, but that's, it's not like you never get this volatility, but these have been big swings. $96,000 on February 22nd, and then on February 28th, it was at $78,000. And then just later, March 2nd, $95,000, basically. Then it dropped all the way back down to $83,000, and now it's back to $87,000, nearly $88,000. So just crazy swings in the Bitcoin price.
VIX
Peace also could perhaps mean like there's a period of equanimity in the market. Like sometimes you get to the top of a bull market. If you look at 2017 for Bitcoin, it reached, like if you really zoom in, it reached the top and it kind of just like was like hovering there for like 2 weeks in this wonderful price from like $18,000 to $20,000. It didn't really move much. It kind of hit there. It didn't go beyond it, but it just like hit this top like this. And if you had seen that and you sold out, then you had like a 2-week period to do so. And it wasn't like it hit it and then 2 days later it dropped like crazy. There was like a nice little zone there where you're like, we're here, top of Everest. I can see the sights. I know I have to go down eventually, but it doesn't have to be right now. That was 2017. And so perhaps it's something like that. Like we get this kind of peace top where it's a little bit rounded. It's not this super sharp, jagged spike up and down. It's like we kind of get up there, but then the truth does kind of start to set in that we have to go down again.
Like a distribution, like what you get here or what they got in NVIDIA. You seen the NVIDIA chart? Talking about one of these?
Yeah, but pull it up.
You talking about one of these kind of moves?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking of
it looks just like,
what does peace look like?
It looks like the 2021 move for Bitcoin, right? A little similar. And now you got the break right there, right? 1, 2, 3. If I go to Bitcoin, you can see very similar 2021. You got 1, 2, 3, and you broke this here.
Yeah, that first top in 2021, and I think that was like April, May.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a nice period. It broke all-time high later in the year, but just barely, and it just like was just for like a week or something, you know. The other thing I'll mention about these I-Chings is that just you're never going to get the complete understanding or picture when you first cast them, especially something like this. Like guaranteed in like a month or two, like I know I'll be looking at this more, but guaranteed in a month or two, there's going to be a lot more kind of understanding of how this is playing out. So it's good to write it down and then just keep it as a reference as things play out.
Yeah, this is what you're describing is like classic distribution. You see it right here. It's almost exactly like 2021 Bitcoin. It's classic distribution.
And it'll come into higher resolution and more clarity as we get closer to that event. And so that's why you cast it now, so it's in your mind early, so then when you actually get to that time period, you can recognize the signal for what it is and make the appropriate move. That's kind of the idea. So we don't even necessarily need to have the answer now, right? So long as we have the clarity when it happens, then we're good to go.
Gotcha.
I think we will.
What do you think, really quick? I know we're probably gone. I know you got to run too. Really quick, what do you think about the Trump and his son tweeting about the crypto?
Just today, or?
Well, I mean, it's been, you know,
or just in general.
His son famously was tweeted, you know, buy ETH or something, right before we slipped off the ledge, and then they tweeted, what did they tweet?
They sold.
And then this weekend they made a tweet as well, right, about the reserve, creating the pump, and then he also tweeted, I think today he wrote HODL or everybody HODL or something, or he did that yesterday. Trump's son.
Trump did, or
Eric's
Eric
his son.
did.
His son, yeah, Eric, I think it was.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'll say on that is that often people come out of the woodwork as like a top signal. And so, I mean, definitely the launch of the Trump token, I think, marked a temporary top signal because we see the drawdown that we've had since.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, when that happened, I was like, this is such a top signal.
Yeah, 100%.
So maybe it is a complete top signal or just a temporary top signal. Yeah, I think it's more a temporary one.
I'm siding with temporary. I'm still positive that we have more, but we don't know that yet, right? We don't know for sure.
Yeah. But like back in 2017, I met this guy while I was traveling. He was this British chap and successful, has his own business or whatever. Some old money there too. You know, he did a post on his Instagram like mid-December of 2017 saying like the next best investment is Ethereum. And at that point, it already went from a low of like $6 in 2016 to $1,400 in 2017.
Right.
So kind of missed the boat, bro. Like after that, after his post, it only went down. And so when you start to get some of these people posting out about it more like that, I mean, most people know this, but sometimes it's hard to see it when it happens.
Yeah.
Then it's kind of a top signal.
Yeah, we have our biases. Like I want it to go up, right? Because I'm in alts or whatever. Like I really want it to. So it's like you get attached, and I think they know that too. Because this guy told me, he didn't just say they're gonna crush. He had a whole thing. He's like, the elites wanna. The elite. He had this whole explanation to me. I don't remember the whole full detail he told me because I didn't think much of it at the time. You know what I mean? It was just a theory he had at the time. But now looking back, he said that the elites know that all of the plebs, I don't remember what word he used. He's like, all the plebs, all of you guys are in altcoins. He's like, the elites know that. They know that you're not in Bitcoin. And he goes, next cycle, they know you're not going to buy Bitcoin. So they're going to run Bitcoin and smash Ethereum and alt. And yeah, I mean, that's exactly what he told me. He said the elites, he used the word elites. He goes, the elites know that you guys are in alts and they don't want you to make money. They don't want you to escape, is what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin dominance is going crazy.
Eerie now, looking back when he told me that. Eerie as fuck.
I mean, some alts have done well, but only
Some
a few. Really, not that many. I mean, Hedera's one. Now at the most recent pump, Cardano has done all right. XRP has done really well because of how close they are to the White House Solana. But, I mean, most of them are pretty low on the ratio against Bitcoin. And just not, some of them are holding on, you could say.
Yeah, I mean,
then a lot of it's been destroyed.
BTC dominance is still in the game, but it looks like it could still fall out at any time. I mean, it's actually pretty tough to read it, but it is what it is. It is what it is right now.
Right now it's good, but I think we will get an alt season. I
agree.
I think this is just another flush out.
Yeah. I do feel it's coming. Maybe they just crushed it for long enough to get as many people out as possible. Because the elites are degens too. Yeah, they want to play too.
Yeah.
They want the casino to run up too. Yeah, so they'll run it up. It'll just be who can hold on the longest, right? So far, it's like a game of attrition, like war, like literally.
The other thing I do keep in mind too with things like this is that
interesting point.
Every wave has an expression of an up and a down.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a long period up, then that wave means it's a long wavelength, and so that period down is also going to be a long wavelength. Now, perhaps it gets filled in by other waves, whatever. You have constructive, deconstructive interference in physics.
Right.
But fundamentally, a wave is an up and a down, a peak and a trough. And so if you have really severe drawdowns on alts, that is just going to load them up to really explode once they do go higher.
I agree with you 100% on that. And that was his theory. He told me, he said when they do rip, they're going to hold it down for a long time. And then he said really late, 2026, 2027, he said the alts are going to rip like insane levels. I think he was given like $30-something XRP, and like he had some crazy price targets. I have, for stuff. They were nuts. But he pretty much was saying, they're going to hold it down, and then it's going to go nuts. Maybe it's not that late. Maybe it just happens at the very end, like after this summer or whatever, or this summer, when we least expect it, when everyone's just worn out and ready to capitulate, they do it. But yeah, I agree with you. They are going to run, so you want to be positioned when they do, because I think it seems to line up well with the continuation of the debasement of the dollar is what it sounded like it was going to continue with, because as a dollar, when they decide to let it slide again, or start printing, that's when the amount of money they're going to print on the next one. Just a heads up, people, chat. We don't know what it's going to be, but I have said on streams the next printing session, when it does come, is going to dwarf 2021. So you can imagine the evaluations of your risk assets is going to be exponentially larger than what we saw in 2021. So that's why these price targets are going to be off the charts. Like you wouldn't even believe them if I told you some of these price targets. But that's how big the debasement is going to be. So we do have a lot of bullish things to look forward to, but you got to make it. You got to last through all this stuff to get there. I
mean, like for example, with like household savings in the United States, it's very low right now. It went up with COVID because of the stimulus checks and people weren't out spending as much money and stuff. But it's pretty rock bottom. Credit card debt's very high. So the point of me mentioning is that some people, they want some hope. They do put some of their money into crypto, and it ends up, it might not be much like compared to a millionaire or billionaire. This is just speaking for a lot of people, but it is a significant part of their portfolio, let's say.
Right.
So there is a lot of energy and life force invested into that.
It is.
But and so that's where you can have these emotions come in, and like, you know, if you see it going down, it's like, hey, I actually need that $2,000. Even though I'm selling at a loss, it's more valuable to me as 2,000 than it is as 0. But just personally having, like, I had a normal job as a geophysicist and I was stable and doing well. But then I started traveling a lot. I quit my job. I started the YouTube channel, and I went on a super diet, you could say. Like, I reduced my income like crazy, and I had no money coming in, basically.
Right.
I had savings and stuff, right, investments, but I didn't want to touch it. So I went into like poverty mindset. So I got a feel, like a really good feel of what that was like. Like real poverty mindset. But now the YouTube and some of these other things I'm doing are doing well. And so now that I have like a nice savings account, it's not billions, but it's like compared to before, I'm like, okay, I'm not emotionally tied to these things now, right? Because I just have a little bit more float.
Right.
And so I can see how like this market cycle is not perturbing me at all. Like not one bit. I'm actually pretty pumped that the prices are down because it gives me an opportunity to like look at things and maybe build new positions. But if that 10% is that you put in is a really big deal, then yeah, it's like psychologically not good.
Yeah, 100%.
I think more people are probably there than being comfortable with their asset going down 30% because they see it as a buying opportunity because they actually have cash and savings that's disposable. Looking at the broad strokes, most households are not in that bucket right now.
Right.
Unfortunately, you know, we wish that wasn't the case, but so yeah, when things do start to turn around and the momentum is clear, then you're going to get people YOLOing, bro, because they need that to build that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be really, I think when it goes, it's going to be crazy, but I think there's going to be a lead up to that. That maybe summer optimism phase where it's slow and steady and kind of like hidden, low volume perhaps, but people in the know are watching it and they're getting excited. Reminds me honestly very much to, that would be very reminiscent of like Bitcoin in 2015. If you go to that part of the chart where it was like this nice steady ramp up. And people that bought in at that time, they did very well, and then eventually caught the public eye. Like specifically like September to December of 2015. I mean, what a nice ramp up that is. Yeah, you'll see it right in there. It's beautiful, but that was only going from $200 to $400, and Bitcoin that cycle went to 20,000. So that was still super early. Punch in a little bit more on that. Specifically, because it's such a nice exponential wave that comes in. Right, that one right there is so nice to look at. It's a perfect, like, polynomial. I could see us kind of doing something like that this summer. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be very cool, and I'm with you on it. Very possible.
Even kind of a similar structure too, if you look at it, going back to the top in 2013 at $1,000, and then see that bucket that it had, that fake out in the center of it. No, after the other one, go up. This is like actually 2014. That guy. That's kind of similar to what's happening right now.
Could be, very much so.
A little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Similar. Now we're looking at different parts of the market cycle because that already hit a top, and that's now the bear market.
Yeah.
I think, again, both of us think that we're in a local top for the bull, not the actual bear market, but it is similar.
Yeah. I'm still feeling a local top. I'm still not sold that this could be the end, but of course I'm biased, you know, and but
the dates are actually almost the same too. February 24th, 2014. we had a severe drawdown, $489 for Bitcoin. And then on March 3rd, 2014, it was up to $675. So a massive swing, but then it only went down further. And it went down to 360 April 9th. Then it had a pump up to 529 April 15th. Just big heartbeat pulses almost in the data. If you look at it, it's like this big, like, hey, we're still alive. But it did eventually capitulate further. But that was after the clear top at $1,000. So we hit $100,000. So, you know, we wait for peace, and we know that that's the total crypto market valuation high.
Yeah.
That's kind of our I-Ching reading suggestion.
All right. So maybe we don't have peace confirmed yet. So
We don't. It's true.
by the same-
Anything else? I'm going to jump on my own live stream pretty
Yeah.
soon to cover this geomagnetic storm that's just starting right now.
So we could
But
have
if you have anything else,
an intensification of stuff, right?
yeah, we'll have increasing energy volatility start up in about an hour, like starting basically about now. But we had this solar storm impact coming in.
Okay.
And so this can also cause people to go, when there's geomagnetic activity like this, people just get a little bit more volatile in general,
Right.
I find. And then you add in all the retrograde energies that we talked about and all this stuff. And
Right.
yeah,
Now-
I just expect there to be a lot of chaos this month.
Yeah, I think your March video was really cool. Everyone should go watch it. It's pretty cool. And when I last talked to you just a few months ago, it was just a few months ago, I think you were just over 100K subscribers, and now you're pushing 200. So that's great, man. Congratulations. And your work is amazing. It's really inspiring. It's very cool. No one's doing anything like you are in terms of bringing this into it too. And yeah, I think this is amazing. And you can see the interest in it by just the growth of your channel. Like a lot of people are taking notice of it. And I found you because you had done some correlations, I think, with Bitcoin or something. And that's how I discovered you originally. Because I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And last time we talked about, I think, HEX and PulseChain, and then we did some stuff this video. So I would love to have you come to the live show sometime, and we can just look at like HEX, or because you know the Richard Hart, he won the case against the SEC, which is a landslide victory.
Yeah.
No one's done that. Everybody else had their charges dropped or something like that. Blah blah blah. He won, which is incredible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I thought they were dropped.
no,
So he won.
He won, which is a huge. I don't know if that's ever happened with the SEC. He took on the SEC and he won, and the case was awesome. The judge was amazing what she wrote, which was pretty much that the SEC just they were retards, and you can't sue code, you know, at the end of the day. And so this was really amazing. But yeah, man, would love to chat with you again sometime. And I know chat would love to have you come to the live show as well. Those are a lot of fun. Let's see. Yeah, geomagnetic storm. They want you to do live X Spaces at some point. I'm sure you could do that sometime.
That's the audio version, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like what was the app called again, where people were chatting? It was hot for a minute.
Not
Like
sure.
the chat rooms.
Oh, Discord or something, or no?
No, and then Twitter came out with Spaces and cannibalized
Oh, okay.
it.
Twitter Spaces is
For
cool.
a moment there,
I guess it's cool for people because they can just ask you questions, yeah, and listen to your perspective on things.
yeah, that'd be fun at some point.
He's a busy guy. You should see his work. It's incredible, and he's just cranking them all the time. He's like the Somi
Beating the drum.
when someone asks you what you do, what do you call it?
Oh, that's kind of a tough question. I mean, just if I meet someone, they ask me what I do, I just say YouTuber right now, because
You're very humble.
I mean, it's not really the all-encompassing, but there's a certain kind of almost prestige nowadays of being a YouTuber,
I like this.
if you're a good one.
I like this. I cover space weather and geophysical energetic events. I like that one.
Yeah. I mean, geophysicist, but
Yeah,
Renaissance man, I don't know. Labels are kind of limiting, so
they are what they are.
I only use them for others, not necessarily for myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to have a geomagnetic storm come through basically right now. So I have some of my materials prepped already. I'm just going to take a quick break and then go live to report on that. And yeah, how about maybe if we do if I jump on your after hours, perhaps sometime,
Yeah.
we'll do an update in like April, May, and that'll be good for PulseChain based off of what we saw.
Okay.
So specifically like around April 19th to 20th is when we have the sun move over the PulseChain Jupiter.
Ooh.
And then Venus will move over that in like early May.
Yeah.
I think it was like May 6th or something.
Okay,
So
okay.
right around that time would be a good time for us to touch base and check in. And that will still be before this summer optimism period that both you and I are kind of thinking will occur. Again, we don't know.
We don't know.
But that would be before that, if it does.
Yeah, it would be before that.
Still, quote unquote, early.
Yeah, we need to get in there early enough and chat with them. But you're welcome anytime, man. We'll stay in touch, or if you just feel like, oh, you have one of those evenings and you want to come on, because you see I'm doing like three shows a week, or at least. Man, yeah, just let me know. You're welcome anytime. I mean, your work is amazing, man. Thanks for joining us today. This was really epic, very cool, and helps give us different perspective and insights on what's happening in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for the platform.
Chat, make some noise.
You're killing it. I love it.
Oh, thanks, brother. I'm glad you watched the live show. That's cool, man. And I'm glad you're watching, keeping an eye on PulseChain too as well. So everybody smash the like button. Go follow Stefan. Details are down in the description. And yeah, you guys are amazing. Stefan, can't wait to see you again, brother.
Same.
All right. Cheers. Good night. See you. Good night, everybody.